Good morning. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted via WebEx, an online digital platform, and will be live streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. My name is Nancy Oman and I will be chairing this hearing. Panel members participating via WebEx and who can be seen and heard are Joanne Hayes, Lisa Valentini, Carl Nipfel, and Larry Clay. City staff will be assisting us throughout the meeting, including moderating the WebEx platform. Agents, applicants, and other interested parties participating in this virtual hearing registered in advance and will be connecting through WebEx using a compatible electronic device. Their participation will be through audio only. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and it is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to the property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone who wants to receive a copy of the committee's decision for an application must submit a written request by email to the general email address for the Committee of Adjustment, Toronto and East York District Office. Please include your name, address, and an email address. All Committee of Adjustment and TLAB notifications and appeal updates will be sent by email only. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto local appeal body known as TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions will be set out at the bottom of the committee's decision. Participants who have registered in advance will be connected to this virtual hearing and will be muted automatically upon entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired, and when the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the agent or applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I'll comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please speak slowly and clearly state your name and address. Please confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. Where required, the applicant or agent will proceed first with the presentation of the application, and then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have completed their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent will be unmuted and will have an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion and the application will be taken into committee for a decision. Please note, the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice are informed of the changes. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have the minutes of the last Committee of Adjustment public hearing been confirmed by the members?
Good morning, Madam Chair and panel members. Yes, the minutes from February 9th, both Panel A and Panel B are ready for adoption.
Okay, I'll need a motion to adopt the minutes for both of those meetings. Okay, so that's moved by Mr. Nipfel and seconded by Ms. Valentini. All in favor? Okay, that motion carries unanimously. Are there any declarations by staff or panel members in this morning's session? Seeing none? Okay. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are you aware of any files to be closed this morning?
None for this morning.
Okay, thank you. All right. The first item is item number 1 489 Clinton Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a deferral request from the owner, email correspondence from Transportation Services, and Forestry is asking for condition number 2. Correspondence expressing concern by number 467, which is adjacent, and opposition from number 470 and 472. And we also received a letter from 469 in our supplemental agenda. Okay, do I have the agent on the line?
Joe, you've been unmuted, so if you can try to unmute yourself on your own device.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman or Madam Chairman and members. I have no idea why I'm being brought into this project. I have nothing to do with this project.
Okay. I don't have an answer for
It's been a few times that the committee sends me correspondence on this. I have no idea how I even got onto this list. I mean, it's not fair for me to even speak about a project that I have no involvement with.
I understand. So clearly something's gone awry here, but I'm going to have to defer to the Deputy Secretary Treasurer on this because, as you know, committee members aren't the ones that do the mail-outs, et cetera.
I really would appreciate removing my contact.
Yeah, so sorry about the error. If you can just stand by, so staff will give some clarity here.
Okay, I'll definitely hold on.
Okay.
Madam Chair, we're going to get the owner of the property on the line.
Is he online?
Morning.
Hi, is this the owner of 469 Clinton Street?
Yes, it is.
I can barely hear you. Can you speak up?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Do you have any idea how Mr. DeMarco got on your file?
No.
Mr. DeMarco, I honestly don't know what to say. Again, our panel members and myself have nothing to do with the actual mail-outs and processing of the paperwork. Madam Deputy Secretary, can you maybe weigh in?
Sure. Madam Chair, we can just not have Joe speak since he is not the agent on file. There could have been a mix-up with the file numbers, and we can just directly speak with the owner, who is also requesting a deferral for this application.
Okay, Mr. DeMarco, so thank you for your understanding. I appreciate your frustration, but staff will try to sort this out and figure out how this happened.
Okay, I'd like a response.
All right, I'll leave it for you to get something and coordinate with staff. So thanks again for your understanding.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, members.
Okay. Okay, do you have the two speakers on the line also? Okay. All right. Is this Ms. Tsay?
Yes, it is.
Hi, can you just identify yourself for the record?
So I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the procedures.
Okay, so
So my name is Ching Ying Tsay. I don't know how else you want me to.
just state your address. I guess you're the owner?
Oh, I'm the owner at 469 Clinton Street.
Okay. So we have two people speaking in opposition. Now, I understand. Are you asking for a deferral?
Yes.
Okay, and what's the reason for the deferral?
I think the there's new bylaws that has been enacted since the application. For the since the 1980s, when we bought the property, there's a garage that has been converted to a coach house, they call it.
Right.
So it was existing when we bought it, so it has always been there. So when we put in the application for the new build, we didn't change the coach house. Everything was existing. So I think since the new bylaw has been enacted, I think that whole coach house has to be changed, or has to, and I think I need to schedule a meeting with the planner to see what the new
Okay,
bylaws are
all right.
regarding that part of it.
Okay, so basically you will be consulting with staff to see
Yes.
if your variances need to be amended. Okay, so
Yes.
let me just go to the opposition because they are holding, and I'll come
Okay.
back to you, okay? Hi, Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Hi, just identify yourself for the record, first of all.
I'm Roxanne. I live at 467 Clinton Street,
Okay, so,
neighboring property.
alrighty, so as you heard, the applicant's asking for deferral because there's potentially going to be changes to the variances, so we wouldn't be hearing the application today, so I just wanted to know your feeling on the deferral, and it would be recirculated, so,
Deferral. So does that mean, I haven't done this either, so does that mean we
Okay,
will
so-
revisit
so-
everything at a,
So basically, what will happen is if the committee grants a deferral, they, the applicant has indicated they will be speaking with city planning because of the changes in bylaws to see if there's amendments required for the variances that are before us today. And hopefully, and certainly the panel will encourage them to discuss changes with the neighbors. Then the application gets recirculated as it has now, and then if you still want to speak, you would just re-register for the new date that it gets scheduled at.
okay,
Okay?
okay. So they may do revisions and then this process will continue as we were going to today
So we
for
would,
the whole property?
yeah, so we would defer, so basically it kind of stops anything from committee decision being made until the next hearing.
Oh,
with-
okay,
Okay?
gotcha.
All right.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
thanks.
Mr. Podeswa?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hi, I hope you heard what was just said. So basically, if you can just identify yourself for the record, name and address, and then to the deferral only.
Yes, I'm Howard Podeswa. I'm at 472 Clinton Street. I'm fine with the deferral.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay, Ms. Tsay, so we will take it into committee now to make a decision on the deferral.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank
panel-
you.
Panel members, Ms. Hayes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having reviewed the material and file and the submissions with respect to the deferral request and that planning supports the deferral, I would move a motion to defer the application.
Okay, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do we need to put a 3 months or what, anything with it?
Just the next available hearing when the applicant is ready to
Okay,
be
so to
scheduled.
the next available hearing.
Yeah, so for the next available hearing, once the applicant advises the committee that they're ready.
Okay, and do I have a seconder? Ms. Valentini, so motion to defer moved by Ms. Hayes, seconded by Ms. Valentini. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item number 2. 66 ALENTEJO Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a photograph of the subject property, a survey report prepared by the surveyor, an email correspondence from planning, and they don't have any concerns. We have a letter from Councillor Bilo, the ward councillor, who supports the application, 9 form letters in support, including number 68 and 64, both adjacent properties. Do I have the agent on the line? And I don't have any other speakers.
There. This is Jeff Powell, owner of 66 ALENTEJO Street.
Good morning, Mr. Powell. I don't think we need a presentation, panel members? No? Do you have any questions for Mr. Powell? Anybody? Okay, Mr. Powell, we have no questions. We've read all the materials. Is there anything you want to bring to our attention that was not in the submissions?
Sure, yeah, I just wanted to, flag, the current structure that's there. There's, as you can see in the survey report, there's a current raised deck that was built around the time of the house was built in 2003. I plan to upgrade the deck and was planning to last year, but was made aware of an outstanding order to comply from the old owner from dating back to 2007. So as we mentioned, I had support from different members of the community, immediate neighbors, 2 to my south, 3 to my north, as well as some others in the community. Additionally, I have been in contact with the city councilor throughout 2021 actually, to bring the deck up to compliance and within the code, as well as the current additions to the deck plan. And actually, as you mentioned, Councillor Anna Balau provided a letter in support of the deck build. The deck build, there will be a privacy screen on the upper level that is in line, I guess, with the dimensions of my immediate neighbor to the south. I think that's 68 Alentejo Street. So it wouldn't obstruct any view of the neighbors. And yeah, I think that's what I plan to present today.
Okay, thank you, sir. Panel members, let's take it into committee for a decision. Mr. Clay.
Sure, I'll start this one. I think this is a fairly straightforward application. It's basically a rebuild of an existing deck and a slight improvement to it. I wanted just to commend the applicant, done a really good job of consulting with immediate and adjacent neighbors and dealing with any concerns that might have happened. I think, and as the applicant noted, the deck is proposed to be screened, which I think is a good thing. So I think this is a very good application, has no real impact on the neighborhood or immediate neighbors. And I would move that, if my colleagues don't have anything to add, I would move that we, for approval of this application, no conditions.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr.
Just a comment for first. I wondered if Mr. Clay would entertain a friendly amendment just because of the depth to tie it to the site plan, so it's clear that it's related to the decks and not the structure.
Sure. Yep, that's fine.
I also wonder if you'd consider a friendly amendment to have the upper deck screened as shown on the submitted drawings.
Yeah, I assumed since it was shown on the screen or on the drawings that it would be part of it, but happy to sort of lock that down. Lisa, any friendly amendments from you? Okay. All right, I'll move that motion with those two friendly amendments.
All right, who would like to second the motion to approve with a condition to tie it to site plan and to the upper deck draw as shown, the screening on the upper deck as shown on the drawings? Mr. Nipfel seconds that and moved by Mr. Clay. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Item number 3, 161 High Park Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have 8 form letters in support, and that includes both adjacent neighbors at 163 and 159. And we also received 2 additional letters in support in our supplemental agenda last night. So, do I have the agent on the line?
I am muted.
Yeah, you're unmuted now. Go ahead. Just.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
My name is Len Angelucci, of Len Angelucci Designs. I'm the agent on behalf of Christine Jarvie and Kevin McSweeney.
Okay, good morning. We don't
Good
have
morning.
any other speakers. I doubt we need a presentation, panel members. Any of you have any questions for the agent? Carl, Mr. Nipfel, go ahead.
Yes, could you clarify we don't have a front elevation, and the only impact on the front elevation, I presume, is the dormers on the side. Am I correct, or is there any other front elevation changes?
That is correct, sir. The elevation is remaining intact. The only addition will be dormer walls.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any more questions, panel members? Okay, Mr. Angelici, we are ready to take this into committee. There are no further questions. We've read the materials. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the materials?
Nope.
Okay. Let's take it into committee, panel members. Ms. Valentini.
Thank you. In my view, this is the variances that are before us, in my view, are minor in nature. We've got a third-story addition with the balcony, and I don't see any potential impacts as a result of this addition. And I think, in my view, it meets the 4 tests. I have no concerns about the application. So I'd like to bring motion forward, unless my colleagues want to comment. No, motion for approval of the application without any conditions.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Ms. Hayes? Okay, all in favor. The motion's moved by Ms. Valentini, seconded by Ms. Hayes. Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, 16 Edgar Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Staff report from forestry asking for condition number 2, and correspondence from Mr. Higgins on behalf of the owner at 20 Edgar Avenue. Do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, it's Lauren Rose. Can you hear me?
I can. Good morning.
Good morning. How's everyone?
Good. Just a second. We have Mr. Higgins on the line, right? Okay. So we do have the opposition. Have you been having any conversations with Mr. Higgins, or just?
Yes, we have, and I think you're going to hear that he supports the application now. We have a modified approval, which will not change any of the variances, but we have an agreement in principle to just cut back the 3rd floor a tiny bit and slope the roof a little bit differently.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good.
Okay, sorry. So I think Mr. Higgins will confirm that. So other than that, there is no opposition. I can answer any questions, but any of the changes we are making does not alter.
Okay, so basically,
variances.
there were like drawings that I recall seeing that were marked up by Mr. Higgins. Are you going to be able to submit like drawings to the staff then that have the modifications in them? Or do you want to use those, or is it different?
We're not using those because that was not agreed upon. Yesterday morning, we received some revised, we made an offer, we received a revised offer from their side that we can accept. I think if there's no opposition and Mr. Higgins gets a chance to speak, I think we have 14 days to give them revised drawings. And I can submit them to staff. Obviously, I'll need a new zoning review.
Okay, so why don't I get Mr. Higgins on the line, and if we have any questions, we'll come back to you after that.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Hello, panel. This is Peter Higgins of Peter Higgins Architect Incorporated. Hope everyone had a nice long weekend. It's my pleasure, really, to be able to say that I've had good dealings with Lauren Rose, fellow architect on this project. I did send in a number of sketches, and eventually we, as of yesterday, came to an agreement that a small reduction in the length of the 3rd floor addition on the east side of the house would be included in the modifications that Mr. Rose is prepared to make, and also that a change to the roof slope that would allow a little less mass facing my client, who is Mr. Harridge at number 20, and just be a little less tunnel-like going down the driveway, because this is a very tall wall. It was well over the allowable 8.5 meters. And I'm happy to say that we're supporting the application on the understanding that Mr. Rose will be within approximately 14 days submitting to us revised drawings that we can then check over and approve within the appeal period. But I expect everything will be good.
Okay. Mr. Nifl, do you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Rose, can you,
for Mr. Higgins, is this for Mr. Higgins or Mr. Rose? Because Mr. Higgins is on the line now.
Actually, either one of them. I was wondering
Okay.
if somebody, if we pulled up the third floor plan that we have, could somebody explain what the change is?
Certainly, I could, but Mr. Rose is the architect, so he should probably speak to it.
Okay, so we'll go to Mr. Rose then, but with those things that you've worked out and new submission of plans within 2 weeks, you're supporting the application.
Correct.
And just one other question. I do have the owner listed here, but I'm assuming you're speaking on behalf of the owner, correct?
Yes, that was agreed upon.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Mr. Rose, did you hear Mr. Niffel's question, or do you need him to?
Sure,
repeat
if
it?
staff can please share the third floor plan. I assume you heard me? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
they
on.
did. They're
Yeah,
just.
okay, I just wasn't sure if I was on.
Yeah, they're looking.
Okay, no problem.
Sometimes the technology doesn't work too fast for us.
No, sometimes I don't know if I'm actually on the screen or not. I can see when someone else is, but I can't see if I am.
I know, because you guys are just on audio.
Yeah.
Maybe while they're looking, are there any other questions for Mr. Rose, panel members? Mr. Clay?
Sure, just a quick one. I noticed you're seeking a height variance of about 1.5 meters. Is that the existing condition? Is that the existing roof peak, or
Yes,
are
it
you
is.
going up?
No, it's
It is.
existing height. Yes.
Existing height. So it's in keeping with the other houses
Yes.
along that street.
And Heritage has reviewed, and all the other neighbors are supporting. So if you look at the addition towards the bottom of the page, bedroom 5, we're going to cut back the part on the east. It'll be 1 foot projection instead of 7 feet or 6 feet, sorry. And then on the side elevation, the east side, we're dropping the eave line down. Keep going. So there, the eave line will be dropped for the addition, so that the next door neighbor can have a little more light and sun, I suppose. That's basically the changes.
Okay, any other questions, panel members? Okay, we don't have any further questions. Mr. Rose, is there anything you want to add before we take it into committee?
No, we've done our due diligence talking to the neighbors, Heritage, Ratepayers Association, and their only concern was for the next door neighbor, which we've come to an agreement with, thanks to Mr. Higgins.
Okay, great. We always like to see good dialogue between neighbors, so thank you for that. Okay, let's take it into committee, panel members. I
Sorry,
don't know-
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I just had a question. I'm
Oh,
sorry
you have a
to
question?
interrupt.
Okay, sorry, Mr.
Yeah,
Rose.
just
Another
because
question.
we mentioned heritage and it's designated, I don't see any heritage conditions. Am I missing something, or do we just not have any? I don't know if staff have any.
I don't have any. We have none. No, you didn't miss anything. Okay. All right, so we're back in committee then. Mr. Niffel.
Madam Chairman, members, I don't have any difficulty with this application. It seems to me that it's a relatively straightforward addition to an existing building. As Mr. Clay indicated, the height is an existing condition. There's a very small third floor balcony, but it's a fire escape balcony. I don't think it needs to be screened. And the application has the support of the neighbors. For those reasons, I don't see that there's any negative implications for anybody around the building or in the neighborhood. And I'd like to move approval subject to forestry condition number 2.
Okay, so motion to approve, including the forestry condition, moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? Okay, your application's been approved unanimously. Thank you. Number 5, 187 Grenadier Road. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Panel members, this is one variance, truly minor. And do I have the agent on the line? I don't show any.
Hello.
Speakers. Hi. Can you just identify yourself for the record?
Yes, I'm Charles Jeffrey Turner. I'm the agent acting on behalf of the owners of 187 Grenadier Road.
Okay. Okay. Panel members, any questions? Mr. Niffel?
Very quickly, could you explain or could you tell us what the FSI of the existing building is? Because this is a very minor addition and the FSI is quite high.
Yeah, the FSI as is 1.12 with a gross floor area of 363.55 square meters, and the proposed floor space index is 1.13 with a gross floor area of 366.8. So it's literally approximately a 1% increase in those values.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Okay, Mr. Turner, we're ready to go into committee. We've read the materials. We're ready to make a decision. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the submissions?
Nope, I think it's all there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, we're in committee. Ms. Hayes?
Thank you. This is indeed incredibly minor. The increase in FSI against the existing is minuscule. I think the application meets the 4 tests, and I would move to approve the application with no conditions.
Okay, Ms. Valentini, you want to second that? Okay. So a motion to approve, moved by Ms. Hayes, seconded by Ms. Valentini. All in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item number 6, 88 Redwood Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a revised zoning waiver, covering letter from the agent, presentation materials from the agent. We have forestry asking for conditions 1 and 2. And we have a planning report in our supplemental agenda. We have 5 form letters in support signed by owners at 9 and 10 Redwood, 12 Glenside, 380 Woodfield, and 343 Highfield. We have letters in opposition from 103, 85, 97, 92, 96, 95, 94, 84, and 39 Redwood Avenue, and also an additional letter from 39 in our supplemental agenda. Do I have the agent on the line?
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Adam Brander, and my address is 49 Bolton Avenue in Toronto. I am the agent and the architect for the proposal at 88 Redwood Avenue.
Okay, morning, sir. We do have a number of people listed to speak. Let me just check. Do we have them all? Okay, so I'm going to need you to do a presentation. We'll start the clock as soon as you start speaking. Is there anything you need staff to put up before you start speaking?
If we could bring up the support material, we'll be referring to that mostly through the presentation. Thank you.
Okay.
I can first make a declaration.
Madam Chair, could I interrupt just a minute? And could the applicant just confirm before he starts his 5 minutes the amendments that he's proposing to the application as submitted? I've noticed in the review there's some amendments.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Hayes. I do recall reading deleting variance 2 and variance 4 changes. Is that correct? Are you making that amendment?
Certainly, I can, through you, Madam Chair, make a statement that per the public notice, variance number 2 relating to front exterior main wall height is removed. And additionally, variance 4 relating to floor space index is reduced to 1.095 times the area of the lot, or 274.27 square meters.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so whenever you're ready, we'll start the 5 minutes.
Certainly. And so this application seeks to expand upon an existing single-story dwelling that's more or less existed in its current extent for quite a long time. In today's urban context, the bungalow could be considered an inefficient utilization of the lot. The proposal consists of a 3.2 meter footprint extension at the rear and a second and third story top-up, of which the third story is integrated into a pitched roof line, a common characteristic of the vernacular as homes in residential neighborhoods such as this, as they grow and expand over time. I'm here to request relief for 5 variances. One variance looks at floor space index for the subject property. a proposed floor space index of 1.095, where 0.6 times the area of the lot is the as of right. If we can refer to support material sheet 1, I see it up. A research package for the study area shows numerous minor variance approvals in the 1.03 to 1.27 times the area of the lot range, including comparable approvals on Redwood Avenue itself. As these comparable or more extensive FSI applications are considered minor, it lends that this application could also be supportable in its immediate context. If we could flip to support material sheet 2, please. The building profile diagram here is intended to illustrate the high level of general conformity to the zoning bylaw overall. The dashed blue outline outlines the proposed built form, and the dashed green line depicts the permitted profile for the zone and site. This demonstrates the proposal is less high, less deep, and less voluminous than is permitted as of right, and so is very much respectfully in keeping of the built form. Staying on this diagram, if by consequence of the third floor rear wall extending vertically, it's outlined in the blue dashed line towards the top left, a rear main wall variance is triggered, though, as this is substantially recessed from the permitted sloped wall profile up and further to the left in the green dashed line, the proposal actually tapers and steps back much more substantially than the zoning prescribes, offering improved relief overall over the permitted form condition. Variants 5 and 6 look at side yard setbacks. These are existing conditions. There is provision in the bylaw for maintaining setbacks as irregular jogs in the building extending back or extending up can be undesirable visually and ineffective functionally. So as the proposed extends back and up concurrently, these variances are technical in nature as they apply only to the addition extent that is both behind and above the original dwelling. So the rear room of the second floor only is applicable here, but largely the intent of the bylaw is maintained. And one other related variance is to platform side yard setbacks at the rear of the building. The zoning examiner made a determination that the platform be measured from the outside of the building parapet rather than the platform itself. And so the platform at the rear would require a 0.02 meter side yard setback variance, nominal by any measure. The third story south side setback meets the intent of the clause, considering that the platform extent initiates behind the 0.45 meter deep parapet. This is the setback requirement. And for greater sensitivity, permanent privacy screening is indicated along the south side of the platform to the satisfaction of planning. With these supporting reasonings, support through consultation with planning, some neighbor and community support, revisions made which address some of the other neighbor concerns. It's felt that there's nothing objectionable about this application and it's reasonable and meets the 4 tests. These are my initial submissions in support of the application. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll have you back for questions after we hear from the opposition. Okay. You got Mr. Smith?
Jim, you've been unmuted if you want to try to unmute yourself on your device.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Smith?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't hear me being called.
No worries.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, loud and clear. Can you
Oh.
just state your name and address for the record, and then you have 5 minutes, okay?
Okay. Thanks, Madam Chair and committee members. My name's Jim Smith, and I'm speaking on behalf of my wife and I. We've owned and occupied 96 Redwood, which is 3 houses north of the proposed building. Let's see, 27 years. We're now senior citizens. We weren't when we bought the place. But we're opposing variances 3 and 4. And we're opposing them because we find that they're just unacceptably bigger, taller, and it's a flat top, big box building that Redwood Avenue has very few of. Just as the background to our opposition. Redwood is a one block, one way sort of micro neighborhood that's characterized by an exceptional tree canopy. And all of the 72 houses on the street are a variety of peaked roofs, with the exception of 3 flat top box buildings much nearer the bottom of the street. And all 3 of these are smaller than what these variances propose. In shape, unfortunately, the subject building will echo a rather garish flat top apartment building at the bottom of the street on Gerrard. Now, with respect to variance 3, it still seems to me to be a problem of height. This height is 3 floors plus a basement, big box, and we just submit it's entirely inappropriate. It'll cheapen the streetscape. I mean, variant 6, which we're not really opposing, which is the one that appears to attach the building to the south. We're not opposing that, but it's going to make the look and the appearance much, much worse because the flat tops building towers over on both ends that smaller building to the south. And this will just flaunt and accentuate the flat top, big box nature of the house. Now, we don't see any applicable height variances. We don't see a little map like in the page on the support materials that you were looking at earlier. I expect that it's because there haven't been any successful variances for flat top houses on this street. In any case, that's all on variance 3. Variance 4, though, that's the floor space, I believe, called index. And the revised ask is still for 1.85 times the allowed floor space. It's just way too large, and it makes this building near the top of the street just a mammoth and inappropriate insertion into a relatively stable peaked roof neighborhood. On the applicant's submitted materials, which if we could go back to page 1 of what I think is called the CA presentation material dated February 16th. That's one with a little circle dot map. Yeah, there we go. That's it. Now, with respect to Redwood Avenue, you note that there's only three, and that, this is a widely varying neighborhood. The next street over is a former river valley. It's low. It has mostly sixplex apartments. But it does not, this building does not nestle comfortably within the range. It's actually, in terms of Redwood Avenue request, this is the biggest ask so far in terms of floor space. And it's submitted just an ungainly upsizing of what's been asked for on our street. We'd like to see it reduced to something much more proportionate. It's going to dwarf our neighborhood homes. It just pushes the envelope too far in the direction of inserting overlarge big box homes among local neighborhoods of smaller family dwellings. Just in summary, to echo the official plan, this oversized house in height and floor space does not fit the existing physical character of our one block Redwood Avenue. The requested variances, 3 and 4, fail in regard to prevailing heights, the scale, and dwelling types on the street. And they should be denied. And our submission would be, if they are denied, we certainly look forward to something a bit more suitable being brought forward by the applicant. Thanks for your time.
Mr. Smith, sorry, Mr. Smith, can you just state your address?
Oh, I'm sorry, 96 Redwood Avenue, 3 houses north of the subject property.
Thank you.
On the same side of the street.
Panel members, do you have any questions of the speaker? No? Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, Ms. Mulligan?
Yes, hello?
Hi, can you identify yourself, name and address for the record?
Yes, Shannon and Liam Mulligan of 95 Redwood Avenue.
All right, we're going to restart the clock. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. So we were quite shocked when we first received the letter from the city about the plans at 88 Redwood. Given the enormity of the structure and the severe changes to the property, we were surprised that the owner and architect wouldn't have contacted us directly, as we live right across the street. The committee has several times during this session mentioned how they appreciate a good dialogue between neighbors, and we have had zero communication since the property was purchased. It's a very neighborhood-friendly street, and this came as quite a surprise to us. Our initial displeasure arose from the size of the structure. The height difference is no minor variance. 2.3 meters is over the variance requested is very large, and the structure will be the tallest one in the immediate vicinity of our home, regardless of the minor slope that the owner did talk about. This is essentially just a get around of the height variance. The front slope will make no impact, and the overall height of the building has not actually changed. This is going to severely impact the amount of light, heat, and exposure to the sun that our home receives, which was one of the reasons that we bought our property 6 years ago. We spent a lot of time on our front porch with our 2 children, and this is going to have a very large impact. I also think that the letter from Jim Smith, who previously spoke, he brought up some serious environmental concerns due to the deep digging required for the basement that was previously heated by oil, and these have not been addressed. Given the amount of small children in this family neighborhood, this is a serious concern to us, and we have not seen any communication around this about what will be done in order for that to be safe. What really speaks volumes to me is that the architect went outside the vicinity of 88 Redwood to find letters of support. So this lets me know that, it was evident that there would not be support for these variances within the immediate neighbors of the changes. I think we can see that by looking at the properties that supported versus opposed, even without talking to us directly. And knew that, in fact, that the changes were not minor variances, since if they were minor variances, there would likely be no need for letters of support, since those changes would, in fact, be minor, which they're not. The letters of support are not from the nearby properties. They're from 10 Redwood, someone who sold their property in January and is actually moving out of Toronto. 9 Redwood, which is owned by a real estate agent, so there could potentially be a vested interest there. That real estate agent's partner is listed at 12 Glenside, who also had a letter of support. This address, no property currently stands there, yet there is a property at 14 Glenside, which was purchased by both of those 2 real estate agents, and one that will also need to be going through the committee of adjustment as well. An owner on Woodfield, a street 4 streets away, and an owner on Highfield, also a real estate agent, whose property is undergoing renovations and is listed as coming soon. So to us, this is indicative that the support for the property is not actually in the property itself, since it would have no bearing on the properties that listed letters of support. Beyond the huge difference, this large property, it's a very large structure. It's asking for a lot of variances in height, in size, 4 walk-in closets. The property itself will be quite large, and our fear is that there's nothing preventing a designer from building higher or larger than even initially stated, other than perhaps paying a small fine once the build is done, which would do nothing to change the structure once it's built. So we would like to also request that there be something formal to ensure that any additional variances once the build is started are not able to take place. And we're hoping that the committee will look at the letters of objection and the serious concerns that we raise against the large variances taking place at 88 Redwood. And we really wanted to thank you very much for your time and your consideration in the opportunity to share our concerns.
Thank you very much. Panel members, do you have any questions for the speaker? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Mulligan. Do you have the next? Do you know which one it is? Or? Hi, Mr. Bowman.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
I can. Just state your
Excellent.
name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, of course. My name is Dylan Bowman, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my wife, Nicole Longcar. We live at 84 Redwood, which is directly south of the contested property here.
Okay, we're starting the clock now. You have no more than 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you for your time. I apologize if I'm a little bit less prepared for this one. This is my first time on the CUA hearing, so hopefully I can just kind of speak from the heart and say some of the concerns that we've had over the public hearing that we received. Like Shannon said, we're also very concerned and we're surprised at the enormity of the structure that was announced in the public hearing. Additionally, we were never talked to or consulted over the designs. we would have really appreciated some input or at least some kind of forewarning of what was coming or collaboration in the lease part, which we never received. Our major objection here, in addition to the size, is obviously the one concerning the setback completely adjacent to our property, which is on the south side. They're asking for completely 0 meters of setback, which would be not a minor variance. That is a huge variance to us, as it would be building completely up against our property. I have no legal experience with what is allowed or not, but it seems quite silly to call this a renovation or a top-up or an addition when this would essentially be a completely new house. It does not seem like the current foundations of the small bungalow in place there could really support a size of structure that is proposed in this letter. So it seems silly to us to call this a renovation just to get around the law, the bylaw that prohibits the setback. This is completely concerning to us because it seems like they would be digging and building completely up to our property line, which is super concerning, not only for the concerns Shannon brought up around the oil in the basement and how that house was heated previously and the environmental concerns there, but also just structurally concerns building up and digging up directly up into our property line. So I'm not sure what is usual here, but we would like assurances. Well, first of all, we would like the bylaw to be upheld and the setback to be upheld, ideally. If not, we would really like assurances on insurance or shoring or some combination of things to ensure that there will be no damage to our property. But we really feel like it's excessive to build directly up into our property line. In addition, like Jim's brought up and Shannon, the size of the structure itself is super concerning. I think Jim eloquently put it much more eloquently than I could, which is it will dwarf our property and probably significantly lower our property value just because of the looks from the street. We bought our house specifically as a detached house in December of 2020, sorry. And obviously, you know the current state of housing prices. They're at a premium in Toronto, especially detached houses. And this really concerns that this will affect our property value. We're a young couple here trying to set down roots. We really love the family atmosphere of the street, and we don't really want to be hit hard by this, as it would essentially be a real negative to us being next to us. We love the trees in the backyard as they are. We understand they're not ours. They're in their property, and they can do with them what they like, more or less. But it just would be such a huge change that would negatively impact our lives. And we would essentially ask that the concerns that myself, Jim, Shannon, others have raised in the many letters of objection be considered. And like Shannon said, I have real concerns about the authenticity of the quote-unquote letters of support that were received. So that's all for me. I really appreciate your time. I think hopefully you hear our concerns and hear us out.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Bowman. Panel members, any questions? Okay, thank you. Mr. Strayer.
Hello?
Hi,
Hi, you can hear me?
I can, if you can.
Okay, great. My name's Jonathan Strayer. I own and live at 92 Redwood Avenue next door to the subject property. I've lived here for 29 years. Redwood Avenue is mostly made up of 1, 2, and 2.5-story houses. Most were built over 110 years ago. To describe the applicant's proposal as merely additions and renovations to the existing bungalow is absurd. One couldn't build a 3-story house with a finished basement on the foundations of a 115-year-old bungalow. It will be entirely new construction. The revised building plan filed by the applicant a week ago has not changed the proposed structure in any meaningful way. I also question their calculation of the new floor square index. I did the calculations and I believe it to be 1.128, not 1.095 as stated. So if the FSI has some impact on your decision, I would ask that you look at the calculations. The revised plan of February 16th has reduced the floor area by only 3.9% from the previous plan. I'd say that the proposed structure is out of character with the surrounding streetscape. It is a 3-story house with a flat roof with a height of 10 meters. This is going to be like living next door to a giant shipping container. It's going to block my southern sunlight. The 3rd-story roof terrace at the rear will look down over my backyard and the backyards of the surrounding neighbors, invading our privacy. In the revised plan filed February 16th, there's a privacy screen on the south side of the expanded terrace, but not on the north side, which is my side. There should be a privacy screen on the north side too. My biggest objection is with requested variance number 4. The altered dwelling will still have a floor area equal to nearly twice the permitted floor square index and twice the floor area of the adjoining houses. A key objective of the official plan is that new developments respect and reinforce the general physical patterns in a neighborhood. According to the official plan, development in established neighborhoods will respect and reinforce the existing physical character of each geographic neighborhood, including prevailing heights, massing, scale, density, and dwelling type of nearby residential properties. The application for requested variances to the zoning bylaw should be denied because the requested variances are not minor. The general intent and purpose of the city's zoning code and/or bylaws are not maintained, and the general intent and purpose of the official plan are not maintained. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Panel members, any questions for the speaker? Okay, thank you. Mr. Kenny,
We turn it up?
you're on.
Great. My name is Nick Kenny, and my wife and I are the owners of 94 Redwood Avenue. We are 2 houses north of the applicant property. I'll be brief as a number of the objections were echoed by previous speakers, Jim, Shannon, Dylan, and Jonathan. My wife and I purchased 94 Redwood in 2017, and we completed extensive renovations to restore a number of the original elements of the property. We built within the bylaw. We did not go to the COA for changes. We were respectful of our neighbors in the neighborhood. During the renovation, we made an effort to keep a lot of the original exterior elements of the house intact, cleaning the old brick, restoring the original porch, etc. We engage with our neighbors, and that's something that has been called out by previous speakers that the applicant has failed to do. The applicant property, 84 Redwood, is a small bungalow, and while I understand the need to renovate and increase the size of the dwelling, I object to the scale of the proposed renovations and additions under the quote-unquote minor variance bylaw. It's laughable to think that this would be anything but a new build based on the drawings and the scale of the property. Specifically, I object to variance number 2, 3, and 4. Firstly, the application is requesting a building height and floor space that is significantly bigger than the law represents. The design of the building, as we've heard from our speakers, is representative of a large box or shipping container. It's uncharacteristic to the neighborhood and risks not only the distinct nature of the street, but the value of neighboring homes, because it simply does not fit in. Building this high will also invade neighboring outdoor private family spaces and block southern light for both my house, 94 Redwood, and more so for 92 and 84 Redwood. This was light we factored extensively into our renovation in 2017 by adding windows on the south side of our property. Secondly, as noted in other applications, a 115-year-old foundation cannot support a 3-story addition, let alone an addition of any size. The foundation will need to be completely rebuilt to support a building of that size, therefore nullifies the standard practice of using the minor variance application process. I know this firsthand, as we had to rebuild most sections of our basement when we underpinned. We dug up and there was no footings to support the house that we live in at 94 Redwood, and I would expect the same to neighboring houses. They were all built within the same couple of years. Finally, since the date this property was purchased, it is my understanding that not a single neighbor was consulted, and we've heard that from a few of the previous speakers. Frankly, this could have saved everyone a lot of time, and I wish this had happened in the first place. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you for your consideration and for a chance to be part of the process.
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions for Mr. Kenny? No? Okay, thank you, sir. All right, our final speaker. Owen or Jennifer Tamsit?
Jennifer, you've been unmuted, so if you can try to unmute yourself on your device.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Are you speaking on behalf of both of you, Jennifer?
Yes. So, hi, this is Jennifer Tamsett, and I speak on behalf of myself and my husband, Owen Tamsett. We live at 93 Redwood Avenue, which is directly opposite the property in question. I'm going to keep this brief also. I think our neighbors have all pretty much reiterated how we feel about the property. Essentially, our main concerns regard the height. The height and the size is just, from our understanding, is very vulgar for the integrity of the street. This is very much a neighborhood community, as you've probably heard from the other speakers. We all get along very well. We just moved here this past year, and everyone's been amazing moving in, and we have all communicated on this matter, and the fact that we have received absolutely no communication from the developer other than these letters of support, which, as discussed, seem to be from neighbors that particularly do not live in the surrounding area of the particular house. And I would definitely question the integrity of those support letters. Ultimately, we are concerned with how this is going to affect our neighbors directly, the properties next to it, and also ourselves opposite, in terms of the fact that we would have to look at this house. We do not believe it's in keeping with the street at all. It will effectively be a giant shipping container from our understanding. The fact that this is a developer that is creating this property rather than someone who's trying to build their dream home also kind of says a lot. They're not even essentially planning to come and live on this street and coexist with the neighbors, right? So basically, we are concerned about the sunlight. We're certainly concerned about the environmental concerns already raised regarding the oil. And ultimately, it's the height and the size of the house and just the integrity of the design in keeping with the rest of the street that we would like to object to. And as I say, it's unfortunate that the developer hasn't worked with the neighbors to try and come to some sort of understanding where everyone can be a little more happy. So it's unfortunate this come around, but thank you for hearing me out and for your time. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
All right. Any questions, panel members? Okay, thank you, Ms. Tamsett. Mr. Brander.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, we're going to reset the clock and for 5 minutes. So if you can just speak to the concerns raised, it'd be appreciated.
Certainly. Through you, Madam Chair, at the onset of this project back last summer, that there was a conversation with the immediate neighbor at 84 Redwood, which initially seemed supportive. I understand there's been conversations between neighbors that have generated some group opinions since then. Leading up to the hearing, any letters that came in, we did reach out with emails corresponding to those reaching out to those neighbors as emails were provided, updating them of some of the changes that address some of the concerns and offering to speak on the phone or communicate by email, but there was no response there on that. If we can just look to support material sheet 3, I think that would help some of the responses on this. So this was yeah, just down there. This was the front elevation on sheet 3. Just shows the proposed elevation in relation to its neighbors. So this was through consultation with planning. We were able to show the immediate neighbors. So as explained by the opposition, there is no setback between the detached properties at 84 and 88, and that's an existing condition. So proposed here is to build on top of that in a roof line that matches and maintains the condition to the south and to the north. The neighbor is actually a bit taller, as it appears, to the street versus the proposed. The setback between the north neighbor is a bit over 10 feet, which is quite sufficient for and ample for this area of the neighborhood. And I guess the overarching comment on this diagram is that the proposal has been revised that as the proposal addresses the public realm, faces the street, this is an entirely as of right proposal as it fronts onto the street. So yeah, the proposal seeks to apply for minor variances, but in terms of how anyone would interact with the site from the public side, it's fully as of right, and that was thought of as a respectful way to make such a proposal. And if we can look at the site plan, please, as well. So it's in a separate package in the drawing set. Yeah, so as you can see here, the dashed line indicated the extent of the third floor is actually set back from both neighbors' rear wall. So proposed beyond that is a fairly modest two-story component to the proposal. Again, set back about 10 feet from the north neighbor. A two-story proposal at the rear would offer minimal shadow impacts on neighboring properties, one to the north and definitely 2 and 3 to the north. The proposed extent of the addition is not asking for a rear yard setback variance. It's not a building length variance. It's not a building depth variance. It's very much in keeping with what's permitted. I understand one neighbor also mentioned working within their footprint to the north at 94, I believe. And I understand that existing house to be a multi-level house with actually a building length that was over 18 meters in length. So just comparing apples to apples, working within that footprint of a legal non-conforming length would seem like a reasonable proposal there. And working here, we have an existing bungalow that's at about a 0.27 times density, existing condition. So obviously a proposal to expand upon that would be an obvious choice. Yeah, and again, there's no height variance. There's no roof variances for flat roofs. As it faces the street, it's integrated pitch roof condition. And no concerns from planning. And just looking at the variances collectively, they do appear minor. I understand some people like the amount of light that a bungalow next to them or near to them.
You are over 5 minutes, so if you can just
okay,
wrap up.
I'll wrap up. That a bungalow would provide, but yeah, proposed here is largely an as of right condition, especially as it faces the street. And yeah, these are my response submissions.
Okay, let's see if the panel members have any questions. Ms. Valentini and then Mr. Clay.
Thank you. Something that I think I heard you say, but I just want to confirm. Did you say the existing bungalow is at 0.72 FSI?
No, 0.2, through you, Madam Chair, 0.27.
Oh, okay, because I was a little bit like shocked by that. Okay, so it's at 0.27. That makes more sense. Also, the two examples you gave on Redwood that have FSIs is similar to what is being proposed are 55 and 57. And it looks like to me that those are, two-story houses, flat-roofed houses. Just wondering, are they on smaller lots, and in terms of the size and how it's going to compare to the proposal here? Do you have any, indication, or can you tell me why the FSIs on those two properties are, that high when the built form looks quite different from what you're proposing? Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, certainly. Through you,
because they're
Madam
only
Chair.
2 stories, they are flat roofs. I don't know if they had a depth variance, if they have smaller lots, why their FSIs seem to be high as well. But when looking at the built form, it looks very different. So I just wanted an indication of if you know why that might be.
Certainly. Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the neighboring properties with the comparable FSI variances are located on the east side of the street. They are on that side of the street. There would be more of a common 2 to 3 story theme, some more 2 stories. So those ones are proposed with greater length and depth for the building spread across 2 stories. So opting for a little less height, but a little more coverage, and just as their FSI is distributed across the site. Proposed here, again, working within the height, 3 stories is as of right, and the opportunity to create more space at the rear of the property, being sensitive to neighbors' backyard space, seemed like a massing that would concentrate the built form as much as possible adjacent to neighboring built forms, and then allowing for open space at the back in the form of predominantly soft landscaping, which is a good approach to building in urban neighborhoods.
So are the lot sizes on those 2 houses down the street, are they different at all, or are they about the same? I mean, I don't suspect you have the exact dimensions, but more or less, are they the same? They look like they might be, but
Comparable, perhaps a few feet narrower, but similar depth to these proposed.
okay.
this
So
proposal.
you're saying those 2 houses likely have a deeper, they're built a deeper dimension? Is that what I'm understanding you to say? That's why the FSI is high? Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Mr. Clay.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks to the agent. That was a helpful presentation to help us understand more clearly what is currently being proposed. And I'd also like to thank the adjacent and surrounding neighbors for both writing in and speaking with us today. To the agent, what I think I heard you say was that there have been several attempts for discussion and dialogue with the surrounding neighbors, which don't appear to have result in anything. And I think you specifically said that you spoke with 84 early on in the process and thought you had approval. What we heard from the folks who have spoken to us today seems to be quite contrary to that view. I think I heard, and I think the panel heard, that if there was one common thing from those who called in today, was that there has been no discussion, no consultation, no dialogue at all. Can you just confirm for us that you or your client has had, or at least attempted to have, some sort of productive discussions with those adjacent and immediate neighbors?
Certainly. Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, consultation, and this process extends over quite a bit of time, just with the lag on certain processes at the city, but this was middle of last year that we started to look at the property and start to think about proposals. There was conversations with 84 Redwood, the nearest neighbor to the south, which initially seemed supportive of obviously improving the property. Obviously, a lot of time has passed waiting for this application to be heard. But in the upcoming weeks of the hearing, we did respond to all submissions of concerns, reaching out, updating on revisions to the file, and should there be any further conversation. One neighbor did write back saying, thank you for the update, but our position remains the same. I believe that was 2 doors up at, I'm not sure the exact number, but 2 doors north. And other reach outs in the weeks coming up to the hearing weren't responded to, and I didn't receive any requests for calls. I appreciate there's a little less face-to-face, but I know the property owners, had been reaching out to neighbors, and as the proposal faces the street, it's felt the impact of really is mitigated by just a fully as-of-right front elevation. But I understand it's changed from a bungalow.
Chair, thank you for that. Chair, a little unconventional, and I wonder if you would agree. I'm worried there's a bit of a he said, she said situation going on here, particularly with 84, who I thought I heard is the immediately adjacent neighbor who was quite concerned about the development. Would it be appropriate, Chair, to just bring that person back on? I'd like to hear from them whether there has been any kind of dialogue in the past on this application. Do you think, is that appropriate, or are we beyond
if
that?
you would like to pose a question, I can have staff bring.
I wouldn't mind. I don't want to belabor this point, but I think it's relevant given what I think we heard from all the speakers.
Okay. Mr. Bowman, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. In the interest of time, so if you could just respond to Mr. Clay, and if you need him to repeat the question, I'll have him do so.
No, I think I understand it quite well. And thank you, Mr. Clay, for giving me the opportunity to respond. I would like to say the conversation in question was us stepping out onto our front porch, greeting with a smile the people that arrived there, asking what was planned. And then what happened was we gave them our numbers and our email to make sure that they communicated with us if they needed to about any plans. And we have not heard back from them since. So if greeting them with a smile and a question about what they plan to build there is considered support, I'm quite interested in the sincerity of this builder around how they construe conversations with us. Trying to keep calm here, but that's quite frustrated with how that was portrayed.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Niffel.
Mr. Brander, I'm, like everyone else, heard a great deal of concern about the height of the building. And I thought in your summation, I thought I heard you say that there's no height variance. And that took me back to your covering letter, where you say, through consultation with planning, the front wall condition has been modified such that no front main wall variance is applicable. So I just want to clarify what we have before us. The requested variances include height variances, number 2 and number 3, 2.2 meter height variances. Can you clarify if the variances that are before us have changed? And you said it's in consultation with planning, so does it have to do with an interpretation of the front elevation?
Can I just
at this point,
can I just interject for 1 second, Mr. Niffel? So it was amended at the start. So variance number 2 is removed, and variance number 4 has been changed to 1.095 for 274.27 square meters. Everything else is status quo, and that matches the planning report that's in the supplemental.
okay, so then my question is, how is number 2 removed? What did you do to the building that removed number 2? Because I don't see the change.
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair, if we can bring up the front elevation or the diagram of the adjacent neighbors in context. There is permissions on a front wall to include a dormer element. So previously, architecturally would say they're a bit of an exaggerated dormer just to create a bit more width. But the current proposal reduces the dormer width to the permitted 40% of the wall below. So this front facing elevation and wall is a slope roof condition, and the dormer is a permitted height element.
So what is the height? Where is the height on the front? Can you go back to the front elevation? Where is the height measured to in consultation with planning? Is it at the base of that sloped portion?
If we can look to just the support material sheet, sheet 2, at the front of this diagram, there's the 7.5 meter height limit, which is for all walls, with the exception of an additional permission for 40% above that 7.5 meters to extend to a 10 meter height. So under both those measures, the proposed is below the as of right.
just to clarify for the objectors, because I think it's important that what you're proposing and what you've discussed with planning be understood. On this drawing you have before us, where is the height measured from and to?
The height is measured from established grade, which has it denoted there as 150.25 above sea level, and so 40% of the front walls can extend up to 10 meters, which is where the top green line is on the elevation, the dash green line, and 60%, and 100% of the walls can extend to 7.5 meters, which is about 2 or 3 feet above where we've proposed the front wall to extend to.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, panel members? Seeing none? Okay. So we're ready to go into committee then to make a decision. Any comments? Ms. Hayes.
I'll start. I appreciate the amendments that the applicant has made to the application. Having said that, however, I think that the technical measurement of the front wall height and the design of the proposal, with the rear wall height still being required and the FSI being requested, in my view, the resulting massing of this structure, and in comparison with the character on the street, I don't believe I can support. I do recognize that there are a couple of FSIs that are larger on the street, but the massing and scale of those houses, especially with respect to height, is not comparable to what's being proposed here. I do recognize that the existing setback on the south yard is 0. However, I think that the impact of that setback with the massing that proposed, I can't support the application in its current form.
Mr. Clay?
Thanks, Chair. So I think it's fair to say that when you get a bungalow on a street like this, it's inevitable that there is going to be a redevelopment proposal. And we've seen some of those redevelopment proposals on this street. Frankly, what I'm more concerned about is the process of engagement or lack thereof. I think it borders on disingenuous when we see letters of support from residences which are so far away and unrelated to this property that it calls into question why those letters of support were even drafted and submitted. I did listen very carefully to those who called in, and amongst other things, and yes, there are concerns about massing and such, but when I hear that the 2 immediate adjacent neighbors really haven't been consulted on an application where clearly is going to have an impact on adjacent and immediate neighbors, that bothers me. I think we as a committee always suggest and recommend to agents and applicants to have those discussions, and we don't necessarily expect that they're going to result in agreement. Frankly, it's in many cases that's almost unlikely, but I think it's incumbent upon applicants to have those discussions, as difficult as they may be, to ensure that they understand clearly what those concerns are and whether there's opportunities to mitigate that. It may well be that this is more or less as of right, and I get that from the applicant. But what I am concerned about is that lack of discussion and respect, frankly, for adjacent neighbors. And for me, you know, I'm I'm more inclined to defer this application, even though we've had a lengthy discussion. But defer this application so that specifically the owner or agent can have substantive discussions and dialogues with the adjacent neighbors to see if there might be a resolution. If there's not, that's fair enough, but I think they deserve that. So I'm more inclined to defer this one for those kinds of discussions to happen.
Thank you. Mr. Nipfel, did you have your hand up? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yes, I did. I'm on this one. I agree with Ms. Hayes. I think that the massing of the building that is before us is completely out of character with the street, and notwithstanding the fact that there's been a technical read of building height that means that one of the variances can be removed. The actual physical appearance of the building has not changed that much. It looks exactly the same. It looks like a building that doesn't fit in with the character of the street. And that is in large part because the predominant character is of buildings with pitched roofs and dormers. And even though a very small slant to the upper third floor has adjusted what one defines as building height, I don't think it has a measurable impact on the massing of the building. It certainly isn't a pitched roof. So like Ms. Hayes, I won't be able to support the application as it is at present. I also share with Mr. Clay the lack of consultation. This is a remarkable lack of consultation given the issues that are are quite evident when you look at the application. So in two areas I'm really concerned, but I don't know that I'd support a deferral, but I clearly can't support the application.
Ms. Valentini, did you have anything to add?
Sure, I might as well throw my 2 cents in. I agree with both Ms. Hayes and Mr. Nipfel have said in terms of the built form of the building. I think just tweaking the dormer is not, so that the first variance, the variance for front wall height is gone, is in my view, really not enough to have any measurable built form of the building. So there's that. I asked the question because 55 and 57, while the FSIs appear to be or are higher or similar to what's being proposed, they don't have that same impact on the streetscape as this proposal does. I mean, I kind of shocked when I looked at them and I was like, well, those don't look like what I thought they were going to look like because they're 2 stories. And for whatever variety of reasons, that they appear that way, I don't know what the depth is, but I feel like this proposal is going to have more of an impact in terms of FSI on the streetscape than those other 2 do. And while I appreciate, the materials Mr. Brander put together, I thought were well done, and I do appreciate that this does fit within the building envelope. And I know we often hear that argument. There's a reason that there's an FSI cap as well. All of those work together, not just the building envelope. The FSI has to plays a large factor in whether or not it fits within the actual area. So, and that goes to lot size and all of that stuff. So I won't be supporting this. I feel that it is going to be a large presence on the street. And I agree with what Mr. Nipfeld said. This is essentially a flat box building with a slight pitched roof. So I don't think that does enough to mitigate the massing, the slight pitch at the front. So I won't be supporting it either. I didn't mean to be that long-winded, but there you go.
Okay, thank you. I actually echo the comments of Mr. Nipfel, Ms. Hayes, and Ms. Valentini. I think the massing is quite large. I also support what Mr. Clay said. And had an deferral been asked for earlier, perhaps I would have entertained it. But at this point, and having said that, this has been in the hopper, it sounds like, for well over a year. So I'm not confident that consultation would result in any changes should we have granted a deferral. So I would be inclined to not support the application. So I will leave it to you guys to make a motion. Mr. Nipfel.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to move that the application be denied approval. I don't believe that it is minor in nature, nor do I believe it maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan and bylaw.
And it would be the application as amended, right, Mr. Niffel?
That's correct.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Ms. Hayes? So motion to refuse the application as amended, moved by Mr. Niffel, seconded by Ms. Hayes. All in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, the next item, item number 17 Rushbrook Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have TRCA, they have no concerns. We have a staff report from planning asking for conditions and correspondence in support from number 15, which is adjacent. I'm not showing any other speakers except for the agent.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Bellis. I'm the homeowner of 17 Rushbrook Avenue.
Hi, good morning. I don't think we need a presentation, sir. Panel members, we have one variance before us. Do you need have any questions? Anybody? Seeing none? Okay, Mr. Bellis, we've read all the materials. We're ready to take it into committee to make a decision. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the submissions? And you are aware of the planning report, is that correct?
Yes, with the privacy screens?
Yeah, to install a permanent privacy screen along the north and south edges of the rear ground floor deck measuring at least 1.5 meters in height.
Yeah, aware of that. No other comments. Thanks for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, panel members, we're in committee.
Madam Chairman, I just have a question. The planning department recommendation applies only to the upper deck, right? Not to the lower deck. The way it's worded is a bit confusing.
It says on the rear ground floor deck.
Okay, so that's the upper deck with the pergola over it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so you're okay then? All right, so.
Yeah.
Ms. Valentini, I think you were ready to move a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In my view, this one is what I would consider to be a minor variance for the setbacks, and I think the proposal, the condition proposed by planning would mitigate any, the variance in this case in terms of the setback. So I'd like to bring a motion forward for approval. In my view, it meets the 4 tests, and I think it should be subject to the conditions set out in the planning memo that was just discussed.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Nipfel was first. You guys were almost with your hands up at the same time. So motion to approve, moved by Ms. Valentini, seconded by Mr. Nipfel, including the February 8th planning condition. All in favor? Or February 9th, rather. Okay, that carries unanimously. Okay, item number 8, 21 Callender Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a photograph of a tree on the property, supporting material from the agent, forestry is asking for condition number 2, 5 form letters in support from number 23, which is adjacent, 25, 27, 24, of Callender Street, and 24 and 28 Sororan. We have opposition from number 19. And I believe the concern is that the garage juts out past her garage. And we have further supporting material received last night in our supplemental agenda from the agent. And I don't show any speakers other than the agent. Okay, you there, Mr. Abbey?
I am indeed. Good morning, committee, Madam Chair. As you know, it's yes. My name's
I just
Brian.
need you to state your name for the record.
I was just about.
Yeah, I don't
I was just
think.
about to.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Brian Abbey. I'm the agent for the owners, and my address is 382 Cleveland Street, Toronto, M4S 2W9.
Okay. Thank you. I don't think we need a presentation. Panel members, do you have any questions for Mr. Abbey? Mr. Clay.
Thanks, Jared. So just a quick one. I'm just looking at the site plan, and one of the variances you're asking for is soft landscaping, and I noticed there's a terrace. It looks like a paved terrace. Is that existing? Is that an existing condition?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
In fact, if you look at the variances, the soft landscaping 38.53 is existing, and the existing driveway is existing because there's an existing concrete slab, which is just a parking slab at the moment. So the only variance that is the floor area, and I've recalculated that, and it's not 51, it's actually 42.4 square meters. That could be corrected.
Oh, on variance number 3?
Yeah, I've just done the calculation.
Okay, so what is it again? 40?
42.4 meters squared.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, panel members? Ms. Valentini, then Mr. Nipfel.
Hi, thank you. In terms of the person who wrote in opposition, the neighbor at 19, suggests that the location of the garage is going to impact their ability to enter and exit their parking spot. I just want a little bit of clarification from that, because when I was looking at all the materials and whatnot, it seemed to me that your proposed garage is, well, there's no setback variance, first of all, from the edge of the lane or the rear lot line, but it looks like it's going to be similar in line to the neighbor at, it must be 23. And
Yes.
the way I understood the way the garages worked in the lane, maybe you can clarify that the garages from 19 over are set back a bit more, but the garages from, I guess, this house towards the other way will they be more or less in line? Is that correct?
Well, if I could get my supporting, if I could look at supporting material with the outline.
Here's the picture. Okay. Yeah.
The photographs.
Yes.
Not that one, the one with the outline. Yes, here we go. Now, the top picture is the garage at 19, which incidentally is encroaching onto the property of 21. And as you can see, there's no garage doors there, so she doesn't park cars in there anyway.
I was going to ask how, so that was the other question. How is the parking happening anyway? Is it like parallel rather than?
No, she's just using it as a shed, not as a garage. Anyway, if you scroll up, this is the existing parking pad here. Keep scrolling up. There, the red line is what the garage will, how it will appear.
Okay.
That's a close-up. If you go up a little further, scroll up a bit further, you will see it in relation to her garage on the left-hand side there. And you can see all the garages up the street are all closer to the laneway. And the very last one is the view from, I was pretty much standing beside her garage when I took that photograph. And you can see there's adequate turning space to get into the driveway. So I think her complaint is mute, quite frankly.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Mr. Nipfel?
I had the same question as Ms. Valentini.
Oh, okay. Anybody else have a different question? No? All right. Okay, Mr. Abbey, I think we're ready to go into committee. Anything you want to add that's not in the materials? We've gone through.
I just had some conversation or communication with Urban Forestry, and I think we've agreed that we will be able to satisfy the condition once that's approved, that you will add that as a condition.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Let's take it into committee. Mr. Nipfel.
Madam Chairman, the only concern I had about this was the objection raised by the next door neighbor, and Mr. Abbey, I think, has addressed that and addressed it well. I don't see that there is any detrimental impact to this variance at all. I think it's probably preferable to have the garage to the parking pad. I don't believe that there is, if the patio wasn't built, that I would encourage using permeable pavers, but perhaps Mr. Abbey, in future, if the patio is replaced, you could consider using permeable pavers in that location. But that, I don't see that as a condition. Based on that, Madam Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application subject to forestry condition number 2.
Okay, and again, Mr. Nipfel, it'll be with, as amended, variance number 3.
Yes, as amended by the
was
applicant.
changed to 42.4 meters squared. Are you seconding, Mr. Clay? Okay, so motion to approve the application as amended, including forestry number 2, moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 9, 43 King Edward Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, an arborist report from the agent, and a staff report from forestry. Again, they're asking for condition number 2, and I don't have any other speakers listed, only the agent. Are you there?
Hi, my name is Navid Arbabi of Banana Design Studio, 2017 Avenue Road, and I'm the acting agent for 43 King Edward Avenue.
Okay, panel members, these are quite minor variances. I think we have 2 of them. Any questions for the agent? Anybody? Seeing none? Okay, Mr. Arbabi, sorry, I think I pronounced it wrong, Arbabi.
It's okay.
We're ready to go into committee. We've read all the materials, and is there anything you want to add before we go into committee?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Panel members, any thoughts, a motion? Ms. Hayes.
Thank you. Having reviewed all the materials on file, I think what's being requested here is appropriate. The lot coverage increase is quite minor. The length, although this house sets a little more forward than the neighbor, the length as proposed meets the length of the neighbor on the other side, so the impact is negligible. And having said that, I would, if my colleagues don't have any further comment, I would move a motion to approve the application subject to forestry condition number 1 and 2.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that? Ms. Valentini. So motion moved by Ms. Hayes, seconded by Ms. Valentini. All in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item number 10, 102, 108, 114, 118 Peter Street, and 350, 352, 354 Adelaide Street West. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the agent, a parking study prepared by BA Group, a revised zoning waiver from the agent. We have bylaws, 2 bylaws before us that were received in October last year. And we have a report from community planning that's asking for a condition. And I believe Mr. Fernandez is speaking on behalf of the owner. Is that correct? He's not. Okay, will not be speaking. So Mr. Owen is speaking. Sorry, I misread it.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, committee. My name is Spencer Owen. I am a representative of Peter and Adelaide GP, Inc.
Okay, Mr. Owen, let me see if the panel members need a presentation or if they just have questions or not. So panel members, do you need presentation or do you have any questions? Mr. Nipfel.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In previous hearings, when we've had situations such as this, where a number of parking spaces are below the normal standard, the applicant has either volunteered or we've required that those parking spaces be designated or signed as smaller than the additional parking. Have you made plans to in any way demarcate the smaller spaces as smaller to eventual users?
Through you, Madam Chair, we are going through this minor variance process to make the stalls in question legal. Most of the spaces are 2.6 to 2.9 meters in width and will still function and operate as normal stalls. The parking report found that the vehicles will still be able to maneuver successfully into these spaces. Therefore, there's no concern regarding the length and the width of the spaces, and city staff are also in agreement with this. So in sum, all the parking spaces in question will be able to operate as intended, and we will comply with city staff, transportation services regarding the condition and work through them through the site plan process.
Okay, so you're basically saying any size vehicle can still operate in those spots?
Correct.
Okay. Any further questions, Ms. Hayes?
Just further to that, then, I'd like to appreciate the comment about still accommodate a minimum of 85 percentile of the vehicles that can acceptably maneuver in and out of the spaces. So I took from that there may be some larger vehicles where those spaces would not be usable. Did I read that incorrectly?
Through you, Madam Chair, you are correct that the report states that 85% of the vehicles for the spaces that are deficient in length and width in question are operable for that percentile of vehicles. The majority of vehicles, you are correct, will be able to operate in those spaces. For larger vehicles such as trucks, it will be they'll fit in the parking space. However, it will be tighter than it would if there were a smaller sedan, which is more typical in the city of Toronto.
Any further questions, panel members? Seeing none. Okay, Mr. Owen, I think we're ready to go into committee. Anything you want to add that's not in the materials submitted?
Thank you for the questions. I would just like to reiterate that the subject site straddles 4 bylaws, the former bylaw 438, the new bylaw 569, as well as 2 site-specific bylaws, which is why it appears that there are many variances in this application. We need to address them because, as you indicated earlier in the introduction, there are 4 bylaws that straddle this development. City Planning and Transportation Services are in support of the variances in question and agree that they meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's take it into committee. Panel members? Mr. Clay and then Mr. Nipfel.
Oh, sorry, I didn't have any questions, Chair. I was just going to move a motion on this.
But
Unless
your hand was up a second before Carl's, so go ahead.
Rare to beat Carl.
What can I say?
Yeah, Chair, I think I take great comfort that this has been discussed at length with city planning staff and transportation staff, and that any concerns have been addressed in proposing these variances. I would happy to move approval of this subject to planning staff's condition. I think they want to see some revised plans.
Okie doke. So that's moved by Mr. Clay. And did you want a second, Mr. Nipfel, or?
Madam Chairman, I regret that I don't. I believe that when one enters a parking garage, the assumption is that all the spaces are the same size unless they're designated as smaller or larger. I don't see the difficulty in marking these smaller spaces as smaller, just as an advisor to the people that are going to use them. So unless they are marked in some way, I will not be supporting the application.
Okay. Ms. Valentini?
I'm in support of the application. I understand what Mr. Nipfel is saying, and given that both planning and transportation has reviewed this, I'm satisfied they have not asked for any conditions of that sort. So I'm satisfied that if they're satisfied, and I think this meets the 4 tests in my view. And I think it's going to be subject to the planning condition. They're going to be, working on revised drawings for site plan. But anyway, I'll second the motion, Madam Chair, for approval.
All right, so I have a motion to approve, including the condition in the February 16th planning report, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Ms. Valentini. All in favor? Okay, that carries, and Mr. Niffel dissents. Do you want a 5-minute break, panel members? Okay, we're halfway through, so we're going to take 5 minutes. We'll be back at 11:25. Okay. Lisa, are you there, if you can hear me? Well, I can go ahead okay, I'm going to go ahead and read what we have before us. So the next item is item number 11, 316 Avenue Road. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, revised of the same, and a revised zoning notice, a covering letter from the agent, email correspondence from the supervisor of transportation services, and let me see my notes. They don't have any concerns because parking's on private property. We have a staff report from community planning asking for a condition and correspondence in support from 312 Avenue Road and 167, 173, 176 Cottingham Street. We have opposition from 23 Poplar Plains Crescent as well as 182 Cottingham. Do I have the agent on the line?
Hi, good morning panel. My name is Matthew Oliveira. I'm here acting on behalf of 316 Avenue Road, and I'm with Replacement Design located at 911 Davenport Road.
Okay, good morning. We don't have any speakers, so let me see if the panel has any questions. Any questions? Ms. Hayes.
I just wanted to confirm that you're changing the soft landscaping. If I've read that correctly, that it's variance number two, you're going to 57%?
Yes, that is correct. And I just want to make sure
Do you have sorry, do you have the square meters for that?
Yes, just one moment here. It's 18.16 square meters.
Thanks.
And I just want to confirm what we are using the revised public notice that was sent out, correct?
The notice that we have does not show the revision. So,
okay, no, I'm seeing it here. It is highlighted 26.93, so that's fine. I just wanted to make sure we're moving forward with the correct public notice.
Okay, but I think because the committee, like in our package, we have the old notice. So if you can just amend it formally for the record, and then it'll all move with we have the superseded plans and all that, so it can be tied to it.
Yes, the original public notice was issued with an error. It had the correct for item 142.8%, but the square meters was initially listed as 29.93, and as they're pointing out right now, it's been corrected to 26.93. So the public notice that's on screen currently is the correct one, and should be what the whole thing is tied to.
Okay.
And yes, we have had extensive discussions with community planning and transportation. As you mentioned, their initial report was rescinded from transportation, and we have agreed to the changes to the front yard landscaping as per planning's comments. They had no additional concerns about anything else on the project. We're within that facade. I know it might look a little odd that we have essentially 4 stories here, but that 4th story is really due to the elevator shaft being included. That's really what's pushing us over on most of the height variances here, the main wall height, the overall height. If it wasn't for that, and we were just measuring to the 3rd floor kind of rooftop deck here, then we'd only be looking at a height of 10.67 meters, and the peak of the existing house is 11.34. So in regards to the rest of the application, if you disregard the elevator shaft, which would usually be excluded, minus the kind of foyer area going in and out of it, which forces it to be included, we would have a height variance of a lot less. And in general, our overall landscapings remain the same in the rear, minus the changes we're doing as per planning for the front.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Oliveira, panel members? Okay, there don't appear to be any questions, sir.
I just have-
Oh, you do? Okay. go
Sorry, I
ahead.
just have one. What's the existing rear wall height? Front and rear wall height?
For the front, if we were to measure to kind of the peak of that dormer, we're looking at a, sorry. Here. It would be 10.94 in terms of that of the rear. The rear doesn't have kind of that third floor dormer, so it's a little bit less back there. 1 second.
So you're already over on the front wall?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, I think we're ready to go into committee. We've read all the materials. Anything you want to add that's not in your submissions?
No, I believe I covered it. We've done what planning recommended. We have support from all the neighbors, and I'd also like to point out our clients also own the house directly next door, so if there was anyone that was kind of concerned about the upper decks or anything like that, it would be the attached neighbor, which is the same owner. Our client's planning to make this their forever home, which is why they need the elevator to access every floor as they move into their senior years. They want to ensure this is a place they can stay for the rest of their lives, essentially. So I believe we're kind of in character with the neighborhood as well. If you look to the north and east, this is Avenue Road. There's plenty of large apartment buildings that kind of tower over this in terms of height. And as I mentioned, the existing house is over the height as is. It's really just the elevator shaft that's kind of pushing us past those limits a little bit more.
Okay, thanks. Panel members, we're in committee. So we're looking at the revised application with variance number 2 going to 57%, 18.16 meters squared. Anybody? Ms. Hayes? Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, I'll start. What's being proposed here, I think, is uncharacteristic of other built forms in the neighborhood. There's a number of multi level, four-story, three-story apartment or duplex or triplex or fourplex structures in this neighborhood. I appreciate the fact that the landscaping has been corrected. The transportation has no conditions. Planning has a condition. They want to tie it to plans. I think that the depth is not uncharacteristic. I don't think the height does not cause me any concerns. I would be in support of this application, and if my colleagues have no comments, I'd be prepared to move a motion to approve the application the amended application, subject to planning conditions tying it to Plan Z2 the front yard landscaping.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Mr. Nipfel. So motion to approve, moved by Ms. Hayes, seconded by Mr. Nipfel, including the condition in the February 14th planning report and the amendment as outlined before. All in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 12, 36 Methuen Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 2 photographs of the property, covering letter from the agent, correspondence in support from number 34, which is adjacent, and 11 form letters in support from a lot of residents on Methuen and 2 residents at 35 and 37 Raymond Avenue. Do I have the agent on the line?
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Yanni Bressler. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my wife, Sophia Samper, and we're the homeowners at 36 Methuen.
Okay, good morning, and panel members, do you need a presentation or do you have any questions? Mr. Niffel.
I'm sorry, I was trying to find it in my in my agenda. To the applicant, could you explain the privacy screen that you have on the which side? Could you explain how high it is? And it's just noted as a privacy screen unless I missed something.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Let me just try to find it in the drawings.
It's on the third A103.
Yeah, it's also shown in A303. There's an open trellis and yeah, on the left.
Okay, how high is the privacy screen? Is it the height of, it looks as though it goes up and meets the trellis, right?
It meets the trellis, yes.
And it's opaque, so you can't see through it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions, panel members? Okay, I don't see any more questions, Mr. Bresler. We're ready to go into committee. We've read all the materials. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the submissions?
No, in the interest of time, I'm happy to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Okay, panel members, let's take it into committee. Mr. Clay?
Sure, I'll start. I reviewed this in some detail. I also checked out the street. There's an awful lot of similar new builds on the street. It seems to be a street, in fact, a neighborhood in a little bit of a transition. I thought that the proposal that is for this property was very much in keeping, in fact, even a little bit more modest than some of the new builds on that street. I don't think this will have any negative impact on the streetscape nor the neighbors. I think it's a really good design. It benefits from a lot of support from the adjacent and surrounding neighbors, so I don't have any problem. I think all the variances, even though they're numerous, are fairly minor. I have no problem with supporting this application. Happy to make a motion unless anyone else has any comments.
Go ahead. I think
Sure, I'll move approval. I don't believe there are any conditions. I think the balconies are already screened in the plan, so I think we're fine with that. Carl, did you want to tie it to a plan for that, or are you okay with just leaving it?
I'm happy to second it, but I'd prefer to tie it to plans. I agree with you. It's quite a handsome building.
Yep. Okay, so that's the motion.
All right, do I have a seconder? All right, motion to approve, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Niffel with a condition to tie to plans. All in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 13, 16 Summers Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have community planning asking for a condition and support from number 23. Do I have the architect on the line?
Hello.
Hi.
I am Ravi here on the behalf of owner, architect for this project.
Sorry, what's your name again?
Yeah, I'm Ravi Doifode, architect.
What's your last name? Because I have a different person listed here. So can you give me your last name? Sorry, what's your last name?
Doiphode.
Sorry, can you repeat it again?
Doiphode.
Okay. All right. Panel members, do you need a presentation on this? Do you have any questions? Ms. Valentini?
When reading the materials, I did note here, it says, I think I've read that the additions were built both 20 years ago and 7 years ago, so these are already existing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any concerns? Have you looked at the planning report and the conditions they're asking for?
Yeah, we went through that. In fact, the owner already installed a 8 feet tall privacy fence at the backyard, and those pictures are already shared with the committee of adjustment team. The landscaping portion and all that, like the owner is agreed to put the some kind of a trees in the backyard, like as soon as the weather improves a little bit, maybe in a March or first week of March. So we are agreed with all the conditions, whatever the city requested.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Ms. Hayes?
Yeah, just a quick question. Was the basement itself extended beyond the rear wall of the house?
Yes.
Okay, and
Yeah,
that didn't, and you didn't need any approvals for that?
Yeah, so this extension basically only in the basement level, not at the ground floor. So ground floor,
Okay.
what you can see is the terrace, whatever we got it due to that extended basement. Yeah, we did the official permit application as well for this one, but because of these zoning issues, the city requested us to go through the COA channel.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. And sir, you're aware of the planning report and the 2 conditions they're asking for?
Yes.
Okay. Panel members, we're ready to go into committee. And before we do that, sir, is there anything you want to add that's not in the submissions? We're ready to make a decision. We've read all the materials that were submitted.
No, we have all the final drawings with you.
Okay, thank you. All right, panel members, we're in committee. Ms. Valentini.
Thank you. Madam Chair, this to me is pretty straightforward. It's an existing condition. It's been around for a long time. I don't think there's been no complaints of any impact on as a result of the structure. I think in my view, it meets the 4 tests. It's an existing condition. So I don't know if my colleagues have anything else to add, but I'm happy to bring forward a motion for approval. Subject to the conditions set out in the planning report, I think, in my view with that, it meets the test for minor variance.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Mr. Nipfel, so motion to approve, moved by Ms. Valentini, seconded by Mr. Nipfel, including the Feb 15th planning condition. All in favor? And that motion carries. Now, we've lost Ms. Hayes, so maybe mark her absent, because... Okay, so we'll move on to item number 14. 31 RAVINA CRESCENT. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from the agent. We have planning asking for a condition, and 7 form letters in support, including number 33 and 29, which are adjacent. Do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, can you identify yourself for the record?
Jonathan Hatch, 6 Bishop Street, Toronto, Ontario, representing 31 RAVINA CRESCENT.
Okay. I don't think I have, no, I just have yourself speaking. I don't think we need a presentation. Anybody have any questions, panel members? Mr. Clay.
Sure, I'll ask what I think everyone is probably thinking. The 3rd-story balcony, it doesn't look like it's screened from the elevations. Can you confirm whether you're going to have screening or not? Privacy screening?
Yes, of course. So we didn't originally have it on the application because we already had support from the neighbor, but planning has requested a condition of the screening be added, and we are in support of it.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions, panel members? Mr. Nipfel, do you have your hand up? The clock's in the way, so I can't see.
Oh, no, I'll move a motion if no one else has questions.
Okay, so Mr. Hatch, we're ready to go into committee. Anything you want to add that we haven't read? We're ready to make a decision.
No, I think this application is fairly straightforward. We're really just mimicking the neighbor. It's quite a minor application.
Okay, go ahead, Carl.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I think Mr. Hatch made a compelling argument that the proposal is consistent with the neighborhood. It's a minor application, I would argue. And the only concern I would have is with the screening that Mr. Clay raised, but the planning department's condition of approval addresses that. So I would like to move approval of the application, subject only to the planning department's recommendation.
All right, do I have a seconder for that? Mr. Clay, and if we can mark Ms. Hayes absent again for this one, but she's back now, so. Okay, thank you very much, sir. So this, So the motion's moved by Mr. Clay, or I'm sorry, by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? Okay, and Joanne's absent. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Item number 15, 24 Sullivan Street. We have
Hopefully I'm back. Computer problems.
Yeah, I noticed you were kind of freezing in and out throughout the morning, so it's okay.
Okay, hopefully it's better.
We
Thank
still
you.
have quorum if something happens,
Okay.
so don't worry.
Thank
All right,
you.
Item number 24, or 15 rather, 24 Sullivan Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have email correspondence from transportation. They don't have any concerns. Forestry is asking for condition number 1. Planning has a condition regarding screening. And we have correspondence in support from number 16 Sullivan, 1350A Woodbine, 50 Stephanie Street, 10 form letters in support from several addresses on Sullivan, including both adjacent neighbors at 22 and 26. We have correspondence expressing concern from 62 Beverly Street, that was in our supplemental, and correspondence in opposition from number 45. Okay, I am showing speakers, but let me just start with the agent.
Yes, Jordan Winters, Wayback Architects, the agent for the owners of
Hi.
24 Sullivan.
Yeah, you're speaking on behalf of the owners, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Who do we have from this list? I just don't know that.
So through you, Madam Chair, we have everyone except the last speaker who won't be speaking.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go to the speakers first because they're listed as supporters. So can you go to Rogelio Concepcion first? Hi, Mr. Concepcion? Hello?
Mr. Concepcion, you've been unmuted. If you can try to unmute yourself on your device, or I can also try to give you a call at the number we have on file.
What, can you go, are these two the same? They're the same, so, okay, try calling them. In the meantime, can you give me back the agent while you're calling? Thanks. Hi, Mr. Winters. I'm going to see, I don't think we need a presentation. I'm assuming you're aware of the forestry condition and the planning report?
Yes, correct.
Okay, I'm going to see if the panel members have any questions. I actually don't show any opposition speakers. I just have a neighbor who wants to lend support, but we can't get them on the line, so we're trying to call them. So panel members, do you have any questions? Mr. Nipfel.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm wondering if the applicant can clarify, the planning department is asking for screening on the west, if I'm correct, on the west edge of all balconies. And as I look at the location map, it would appear that if there's a problem on the west, which I believe is the side of this attached semi, that there'd also be a problem or screening on the east side that would need to be provided. Have you had any conversations with planning about that? Can you clarify why it's only on the west side?
Well, we're all right to have privacy screens on both per the planning report. I'm not sure why it's exactly, but I think both the neighbors are aware of the application and or have expressed their support.
So, but the west edge is the attached semi, is that correct?
Yes,
it's to the west.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
Would you have any concern with providing the same screening that planning is asked for on the west side, also on the east side of the balconies? Because it would appear that there's just, okay, thank you very much.
Anyone have any other questions, panel members? Seeing none. Okay, were you able to get the supporter? Is it Teresa or him?
I just have a message from Pia, the owner, and she said the person calling in to support doesn't feel they need to speak.
Oh, okay. And just for the record, who am I speaking to right now then?
Jordan Winters, the agent and architect.
Ah, I see. Okay. Getting totally confused here with trying to contact people. Okay, so you know these people at 217 then, so they're not speaking. Okay.
Correct.
All right, is there anything you want to add before we go into committee? Because we're ready to make a decision. We've read out all the materials.
Oh, sure. Just that the owners did speak with Joe Cressy and Mike Layton, councillors for wards 11 and 10, and they are not objecting to the application and believe it's positive for the neighborhood and the community.
Okay, thanks. All right, panel members, let's take it into committee for a decision. Mr. Clay.
Sure, I'm happy to start. This is a neighborhood, the Grange, that is characterized by a lot of rental accommodation within the existing housing stock. I don't think this, my initial concern was it's a rather large addition, but looking at the built form and the layout of existing houses, I don't think it's out of character at all. And I think this is the type of neighborhood that not only has accommodation or rental accommodation, I think can benefit from having more given its location. So I think it's a very supportable application for those reasons. I'm happy to move a motion if my colleagues don't have anything to add. Great. I'll move approval of this application subject to planning conditions regarding screening, but as Carl points out, screening on both the east and the west side of the balconies. And forestry condition number 1.
Okay, so Mr. Clay moves approval with those conditions. Seconded by Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 16, 34, Oriole Gardens. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, an arborist report prepared by Central Tree Care, urban forestry permit that affects the subject property that was issued in May of last year. Presentation materials from the agent. We have an order to comply issued last year, September 8th. Email correspondence from Transportation Services. They do not have any concerns. We have 3 form letters in support signed by both adjacent neighbors, 32 and 36, as well as 38 Oriole Gardens. Okay. Is the agent on the line?
Hi, my name is Nicole Porco of ProLand Landscape Construction. I'm the acting agent, and our address is 19 Kenview Boulevard in Brampton.
Okay, I'm showing the owner listed here. Are you speaking on behalf of the owner?
I am.
Okay, thank you. All right, panel members, I don't think we need a presentation. Do any of you have any questions on this application? Mr. Clay.
Chair, just so I think it's evident from the plan, so I just want to confirm the cabana and the detached garage, basically the same footprint. Is that what it is, or was one larger than the other?
So the existing garage, which is the 37.247 meters square, was the existing footprint, and then the addition was added, which is the 4.648 meters square.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, panel members? No? Okay. Ms. Porco, I don't believe there are any more questions. We've read all the materials. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the submissions?
No, I don't think there's anything I'd like to add.
Okay, thanks. All right, let's take it into committee, panel members. Ms. Valentini?
Thank you. While some of the variances might seem a little large, I think it's important to know, and I don't think they necessarily are, but it's important to know that we're working with an existing structure. I understand it's been modified and a small addition, in my view, has been put on it. So I think that some of these are triggered, they're existing conditions. And so I'm in support of the application, and I did note that adjacent neighbors also are in support of the application as well. They're fine with it. So in my view, I think this meets the four tests. So I'd like to bring a motion forward for approval of the application, excuse me, without any conditions.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that? Ms. Hayes, so motion to approve, moved by Ms. Valentini, seconded by Ms. Hayes. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Item number 17, 66 Eaton Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have an order to comply issued in August 26, 2020. Two form letters in support from both adjacent neighbors, so 64 and 68. I only show the agent as a speaker. Okay, do I have the agent on the line?
Morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Adam Brander. My address is 49 Bolton Avenue in Toronto. I'm the agent and the architect for the proposal at 66 Eaton Avenue.
Okay, Mr. Brander, welcome back. I don't think we need a presentation. Panel members, do you have any questions for Mr. Brander? No? I'm not seeing any questions, sir. We're ready to go into committee. We've read all the materials. We're ready to make a decision. Anything you want to add?
Just that the homeowners that purchased this property a few years ago found out there's an existing single-story rear addition that had been constructed years prior without the benefit of a building permit. So this application is to remedy that and move forward with a proposed new comparable addition.
Okay, thanks. Let's take it into committee, panel members. Mr. Clay.
Sure, I'll start. I think this is quite a reasonable application, quite a commendable one actually, in terms of removing a building that was not built with a permit, and who knows whether it was safe or not, and replacing it with an appropriate structure of similar size. I think it's fairly straightforward. I think the variances proposed are quite minor. I think is quite supportable, and I'm happy to move a motion to approve this application.
Okay, is Mr. Niffel, you're seconding? Okay, so motion,
Yes, I am.
Okay, motion to approve, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Niffel. All in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. The next item is 113 COSBURN Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have previous OMB decision in front of us. We have forestry, they're asking for refusal, and planning is also asking for refusal. We have support from 113, 102 to 102, 130, 111, which is adjacent, 117, 144, 146, 152, and 162 Gowan Avenue. The 111 is not adjacent, it's on Gowan. And I believe that's everything. Okay, do I have the agent on the line?
Yes.
Okay, you're speaking on behalf of the owner, sir?
That's right.
Okay. Panel members, we only have one variance before us. I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have any questions for the agent?
Well, I think, Chair, it might be helpful just to get the agent's take on the recommendations from both forestry and planning.
Yes. Hello, Madam Chair and panel members. My name is Nick Moudzouris. I reside on 1 Roseford Road in Scarborough. And I will be speaking on, in addition to the applicant, with regards to the property. The purpose of this hearing is, of course, to request a permission from the committee for a front yard parking pad and to pave a walkway towards the entrance of the house. Currently, the applicant parks their vehicle on the neighboring property where his brother happens to be living in, and has a front yard parking driveway and garage. So the adjacent house has a driveway and garage. Although that driveway accommodates parking for the cars, for both cars, maneuverability and safe accessibility of adjacent homes' parking garage creates safety concerns. So Front yard parking for the subject property was requested during the previous OMB hearing back in 2015. However, back then there were 2 bylaws to comply with, and it has come to our attention that the existing parking configuration for this property is unsafe and adds some limitations. Now, the addition of the parking pad and the walkway are essential to the safety and conform to those residing in this property to walk or move around so that they can access the house safely, especially during the winter period. On the south side of COSBURN, between Pape and Donalds Avenue, there are 3 other houses, all within a distance of about 50 meters from 113A COSBURN, while the rest of the properties are all low-rise, multi-unit residential buildings. Out of the total 4 houses, Mr. Kaltsunis' house is the only one without permitted parking. Now, I don't see how this exemption to meet the bylaws is fair to him and his family. The intention is to accommodate the front yard to this last house while improving the neighbor's character. And honestly, in light of the urban forestry comments, Mr. Kaltsunis is willing to actually landscape 50% of the front yard with a tree in order to promote the character and blend in with the community and other houses in the neighborhood. Currently, Mr. Kaltsunis is actually parking exactly adjacent to his front yard, which is his brother's driveway, and he has a proper driveway along with a garage. And the only thing we're requesting, if possible, now of course in light of the urban forestry comments, is part of that front yard, because he's already parking there, part of his front yard to be paved with pavers so that the car can be partly in front of his house and doesn't have to go around. Now, I know that the design you already have seen shows that almost the entire front yard is pavers, but again, in light of urban forestry comments, Mr. Kaltsunis is willing to put a tree and do at least 50% of that landscape.
Okay. Panel members, do you have any questions? Ms. Valentini.
So what has changed? I understand you confirmed parking is happening next door at his brother's building. What number is that? What building is that?
It's 113. It's exactly adjacent on the east side. Right.
Is that the apartment building? Is that where?
No, not the apartment building. It's right, you can see it. It's right against it, and the driveway is side by side. Like they can even use the same driveway entrance. They don't even have to extend a new driveway entrance. The only thing is that they need to be able to park in front of their house. So even if not all of that house will be with pavers, at least we can have at least 50% of that being landscape with a tree or whatever urban forestry requires to make it blend with the neighborhood overall. But we want to be able to basically slide in and park partly in front of the house so he doesn't have to walk a long way.
Well, what has happened since the OMB decision and now to acquire this change? Because it was clear that the OMB refused the variance for front yard parking, and that the parking was arranged to be next door. It looks like there's probably a wider driveway next door. I don't know the circumstances, but I'm not sure what has happened that has required this change, because it seemed like it was refused by the OMB before.
Yes,
so
there is a wider driveway. Yes, there is a wider driveway. The only thing is accessibility to the adjacent houses garage. It's a little more difficult, and we can have safety concerns there. So the idea is to take part of the front yard, only part of the front yard, the small part, to allow for Mr. Kaltsunis' car to park partly in front of his property.
Just to echo Ms. Valentini's concerns, like when I'm looking at the properties and the one that has the garage, even if if they come up that curb cut, they can still get into the garage with a car parked beside it, which is why I assume that decision happened at the OMB. So there's the driveway is wide enough to park 2 cars side by side and have the one go to the left of the car on the right-hand side, closest to your client's property, and then can still slide by and get into the garage. I mean,
It's just that there is not enough.
That's my observation from what I see. And
Yes, it's just that there is. Okay.
Sheriff, if I can, just to follow on that, just a question. So where is the property line? Is there a right of way? I mean, it just seems a little unusual that someone who lives in one residence is parking on what looks like the property of the adjacent residence. I appreciate that they're related right now. Maybe that's a convenient solution, but I'm a little uncertain as to how this actually works, if there's a right of way or whether there's a hard property line which a vehicle would be cutting across to park in the adjacent neighbors. Maybe the agent can explain that to me.
Well, at the moment, there is a property line in the middle between the houses 113 and 113A.
Right. So if you live in 113A and you're parking on the adjacent neighbors, you're parking on their property? Is that
That's
true?
right. That is right. That's what's happening right now.
I mean, it's convenient that you're related, but that's kind of inappropriate if they were 2 unrelated residents of those homes.
That's the point. And what happens in the future? Let's say at some point, I know this family has been living there for the past 40 years, but let's say at some point one of them decides to sell their home. What happens then? How is this house going to be accommodated with parking? And it's not so much, okay, right now they're parking in front of 113. But again, we just want to have basically 2 meters or so to be able to situate a car in front of 113A. That's all we're looking for. And the rest of it can be all landscape.
So just on that, so even if you got a little bit of space there, because the curb cut, would you still be, whoever's accessing 113A would still then be actually driving across the property of 113 to get to that parking pad?
That is right. According to to what is there right now, yes. Now, we could have the entrance driveway increased, but again, I'm trying to minimize the effects on the boulevard, basically. I'm trying to make everything work. I'm not trying to get more. I just want to accommodate my client to be able to park in front of his house.
So if I'm looking at the picture of the house where you want to put the parking pad, and you have the steps on the right-hand side, in order to accommodate the spot, do you have to go right to sort of the side of the steps, if you know what I mean, the wall part, or can it, how far in do you need to go?
This is what was submitted, but in light of the comments that came from urban forestry, we don't have an issue changing this so that we have more landscape, like we have at least 50% landscape. We're hoping that the parking space is as far as down as possible to the property line. So from the property line.
But what I'm asking is if you're looking at that house and it's got that little bed in the front with 2 little, looks like evergreens,
yes,
how far would we be going? Like to the middle of that, like with what you're proposing to change?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
So if you're looking at the front of the house, how far underneath whatever, the dining room window, do you come halfway and then you have enough parking? Like how much roughly will be landscaped is what I'm getting at if I'm looking at the house.
I will say from the property line, it will be almost to where the number 3 meters is, where the 3 is, so approximately half of it. And so from the property line down, where it's on the east side, where it's the 7.9 meters, where it's indicated. So basically, we need about 2.5 meters just so we can place situate the car in front of this house. The rest of it can all be landscape with tree. And if you actually, we don't have it here, but if we actually have the street view from the adjacent.
Actually, that's what I'm looking at. I'm trying to get.
Yes, it's
visual.
exactly the same idea. I'm thinking of exactly the same idea because it's gonna look perfect with the other house. This was not something that we considered originally, but in light of the comments that came, this was the idea to do exactly what. I don't know if you can pull that up and you can show that.
Can you guys pull up Google Maps on the? Because the other house has quite a bit of landscaping.
That's right. So we're thinking of exactly the same idea.
But see, transportation didn't comment, so I don't even know if pad parking's permitted. That's the other issue. Is there any percentage in considering deferring this so they can check with transportation also and come in with a revised plan? So I'm thinking, sir, it might be to your benefit to come back, like for us to consider a deferral so that you can revise your plan, because at this stage we have no comments from transportation, so you don't want to find yourself coming back and that you need another variance because pad parking is not permitted. So then we're going through this exercise sort of for nothing. So it seems to me it makes more sense to discuss with staff what you have in mind to try to mitigate this.
Yes. The idea now is to do exactly what his brother has done right adjacent, where there is a tree, there is bushes and all that, to do it on this side so it looks much better.
Yeah, no, I appreciate what you're trying to do here. I just don't know if that's still gonna put some roadblocks in your way. I don't know. That's why I'm suggesting maybe to make your
Madam
revisions.
Chairman, the other issue, it's within the comments of the Planning Department report. It indicates that the OMB's decision was contingent upon 56% of the front yard was to be soft landscaping. So and then let's say that the applicant was going to provide 50%, does he need a variance against the OMB decision? I'm not clear. And if you look under comments on the Planning Department report, at the end, the last sentence under the first paragraph of comments, if you can pull that up on the screen, it indicates that there, up. There. See the last sentence of the first paragraph?
Right.
In addition, the OMB decision ruled the front yard landscaping variance removed and 56% of the front yard was to be required as soft landscaping. So does that still apply? I assume it does.
I would think so. So I think that this kind of is all the more reason to maybe come back with revisions. It seems to me that would be the sort of wise thing to do, but it's up to the applicant.
I think Joanne might actually have some take on the OMB side.
Okay, go ahead, Joanne.
Well, I think this, one of the things is, I think the requested on the description in the notice, because it's legal non-conforming, the variances aren't listed the same way as they would if it was a conforming use. But I think the requested permissions could be clearer, because to Carl's point and to what we're discussing here is, it's not just the front yard parking pad, it would be the decrease in landscape space. Having said that, however, one of the questions I have of the applicant is, are you proposing a curb cut? Because I don't see on your plans a curb cut, and maybe that's why we haven't seen anything from transportation. And my other question would be 113. Was there always parking at 113 even before that house was renovated?
With respect to the curb cut, we haven't proposed anything.
So how are you going to access that property?
So far, because right now the brother is already accessing it, like parking on the adjacent. So
No, you can't, you can't
do
go
that.
across private property to access a parking pad.
So if we have a new design based on what you've seen, like on the landscape, when you redesign of the landscape, then there will be a curb cut, maybe an extension of about 2 meters or so that
Yeah,
it is
to
accessible.
yeah, to the chair's point, I think that you have to address what your pure intent is. To my colleague, Mr. Clay's comment, you can't rely on access over someone else's private property, because if the ownership ever changes, that relationship and the ability to, or permission to do so wouldn't be there.
Understood. With respect to the
The
other
reason I ask about whether the other, parking existed is I do note your comment with respect to other things along the street, but my question would be, were they, that parking may have, those homes do not look like new homes. So, and I think that this property, given the address, was probably at some point a result of a severance. Given that, I would consider maybe what the chair's comments were, because I think that what you're actually wanting to do is not reflected in the plans that are before us right now. And I would have some concern about proceeding with consideration without that clarity, because you're not going to be able to get a parking pad without a curb cut.
Okay, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer is going to weigh in here.
Through you, Madam Chair, staff have put up the plan of survey. And if we just zoom in, there is, it appears, a right-of-way between number 113 and number 113A. And so number 113 has an attached garage, so that would be a legal parking space.
Mm-hmm.
And then the right-of-way could access parking to the rear of 113A to also provide a legal parking space. So could the applicant speak to this right-of-way?
Well, you can't.
And this right-of-way always has to remain free and clear.
You can't fit through there. A car.
I'm not aware of this information, so I cannot speak to this. Sorry. Maybe the owner can, who's picking up next.
I mean, the right-of-way makes sense, but looking at Google Maps, I don't think you can fit a car between those two houses unless it's a pretty tiny car. I still suggest that you consider deferring this and try to get this sorted out with the landscaping and get the accurate, numbers in front of committee.
Is it possible that is it possible to revise the design and resubmit?
If committee says okay with the deferral, then yeah, you would come back with revised plans. And you would be assigned a new date, and it'll give you a chance to talk to transportation about all these things that have been mentioned, the curb cut. You can give us accurate plans with where the landscaping is going to go, how much landscaping and all that stuff. I think it makes sense, but it's up to you.
In addition, Madam Chairman, I think that the applicant really needs to have a further discussion with planning about the implications of landscaping relative to the OMB decision.
Ms. Valentini?
Yeah, so just to jump in reading the OMB decision, I was kind of curious that the previous, well, first of all, there was a number of variances in the previous application. So I'm not sure why that is, whereas now this is an extension of a legal non-conforming use. But in any event, that aside, it also says it's a rear addition, I think, previously. And I'm assuming that rear two-story addition probably, I'm interested to know, was there parking behind the house before all of the additions happened onto the current house? Because my sense is, reading the decision, and maybe that's why they settled this appeal, is that the size of the additions put on the house, this current house, prevented them from parking in the rear. Maybe at one point there was a bungalow and they could park at the rear. I don't know. I'm just surmising from the read of the OMB decision and the fact that there is a right of way between the houses on the survey. I don't know if the applicant or the agent can expand upon what happened in the previous decision, but obviously that house was altered. It was a one-story house, so it must have been a bungalow. And I'm assuming that's why the settlement came about, and they agreed not to have parking, front yard parking, because perhaps maybe the addition blocked off their access to their parking. I don't know. Does the agent know the details of the prior decision and what happened?
No, I was not involved in the past on this project, so I'm not aware of the history.
Your client doesn't know? You haven't spoken to your client? Because it sounds like this wasn't a settlement, and one of the agreements, one of the reasons it settled was because you agreed that there will be no front yard parking. So I don't know why we're back here rehearing the same thing. In my view, it sounds like this was an issue that was settled, and perhaps maybe the rear addition was, losing your parking or taking away the parking variance was, a concession for allowing the rear two-story addition. I don't know if your client can expand upon that. I'm not saying, planning seems to not support this. I don't know if going back and redrawing your plans will garner support, but anyway, I find it curious that was one of the concessions is that to settle this, the front yard parking variance requested was removed. So why was that the case?
The owner has to speak on this issue because I'm not aware. But if I get the opportunity to actually revise the designs and resubmit for your review in the future, I'd really appreciate that. So I don't know if you can permit the owner to
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to put the owner on, if he can briefly answer the question. We're just connecting him now.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members.
Hi, just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Lucky Kaltsunas. My address is 113A COSBURN Avenue.
Okay, so if you can just speak to the question posed by one of the members regarding the history, whether there was parking in the back before, and more important to the OMB decision.
Yes, the house never came with parking. It never had rear parking. It never had front parking. It's an older bungalow that was probably built in the 50s. I went through this before. This is my second time coming through committee. The right of way, yes, that's considered a mutual drive, but because of the size of the house now, there's no turning radius. Like I believe it's only 60 feet or 70 feet, which it's a lot bigger than that. Like, so you end up losing that, right?
Okay, sorry, I'm not really following you, but so I guess the member's question was that the OMB decision was quite specific about landscaping and being able to park at your brother's.
Yeah, originally the plan was the front wall got pushed back. I set back the front wall like 6-7 feet to accommodate the front parking pad. The parking pad was passed originally, and then it got appealed on the 19th day. And then I had to go to OMB.
Okay. Panel members, any other clarification you want? Ms. Valentini?
Okay, so this originally was a bungalow, and it looks like according to the OMB decision, it was a rear two-story addition and a full second story, new front porch, rear patio with basement walkout. So what do you mean you pushed the house back if it was just the top of two-story?
No, the front wall was set back to accommodate for a parking pad. I pushed the front wall back.
Are you talking about the porch maybe, or the whole, because it sounds like it was a bungalow that you just topped up and did it.
Yeah, it was a bungalow. It was a bungalow, but the front wall was pushed back to accommodate for the parking pad.
You mean the
okay? And so why, in the end, did the parking pad get? You're saying it got approved at committee, and then the city appealed the variance application.
That's correct. The planning department, I guess, had something to do with it, and I had to go to OMB.
So how did it come that you agreed not to, that the part, when you settled it, it sounds like the parking was agreed that you wouldn't have parking. So I'm trying to understand why you're back here, because that seems to have been
Well,
a key part of
well,
the
the
session,
whole
but I could be reading into it by reading the OMB decision, so I don't
no,
know.
the whole reason, yeah, there was a spot assigned at 117 Cosburn for the property, but the issue is now that we have nowhere to park to unload groceries or whatnot. We have to literally walk them 200 feet to the house. So I mean, it's a little inconvenient.
Okay, so when the settlement happened, you were supposed to be parking at 117 Cosburn, not at 113.
117, yes.
Oh, next door. So that's what I thought, maybe, that you were parking at the
Yeah.
apartment building. Then I got confused when your agent said that it was the 113. Okay.
Yeah, it was
Anyway.
117. But like even for the curb cuts that they're talking, it doesn't really need a curb cut because the curb cuts is basically slicing right down the property line of the two houses. So there's basically 4 leaves of sidewalk that are tapered, right? It's either 3 or 4 leaves that are tapered. So I mean, I wouldn't be impeding on anyone or obstructing anything. That's what that little, see where the 2 cedars are on that back wall? That was the original plan.
Okay, any other questions, panel members? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Koutsunis. Any other questions of the agent?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, Mr. Moutsouris, you want to proceed with us making a decision on what's before us?
Yes, so yes.
Sorry, Chair. You had, I think, suggested to the agent the prospect of a deferral. Are we still considering that?
I prefer if I do that, so we can revise it, so we can show something different. But
Okay, that's why I just asked you whether or not you want to proceed. So if you want us to entertain a deferral, then we'll vote on that.
okay,
Is that what you want us to do? You would like us
Yes,
to
please.
consider deferring this application?
yes, please.
Okay, if the committee grants deferral, I would strongly suggest that you speak to planning, transportation, and you know, get all your ducks in order before you come back.
Okay.
All right? Okay, let's take it into committee, panel members. Ms. Hayes.
Chairman, I have a concern with the deferral under normal circumstances would make sense, and it may in fact be useful. But it sounds to me as though this issue's already been debated at length. It's in the OMB ruled. I don't see that there's anything that's changed, or there was no information that anything has changed since the OMB ruling. The planning department seems quite firm. I'm not sure that the deferral is going to benefit us. If my colleagues disagree, I support a deferral, but it doesn't look like front yard parking is going to happen here. It sounds as though it's been debated at length, and the decision has been that front yard parking can't be permitted on this property.
Well, I'm of mixed minds. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and what you're saying makes sense, Mr. Nipfel. Having said that, when I look at the streetscape and the 2 properties, if the applicant's going to make significant revisions in the landscaping, and does have conversations with transportation and planning and agreements, you know, some consensus can be sort of come to between all of them, then he can come back, and if not, then he can opt to withdraw the application. Ms. Hayes.
Thank you. I understand what my colleague is saying. I think I would support a deferral in this case for a couple of reasons. One is that verbal submissions that they're going to improve the landscaping, but I have no idea what that means or what that would look like, is one reason. I don't know what I'm considering. And secondly, in my opinion, by looking at this property on just Google Earth, I think it needs a curb cut. That curb cut that's there that extends on the right of way is not sufficient to service a parking pad, even if it were permitted at the end of the day. And I think transportation and planning need to review this application in the context of what's here. Since that OMB decision, the new harmonized zoning bylaw is in place, and that's why I think it's probably now legal non-conforming. And I want to make sure we have all those considerations before us. So I would be prepared to move a motion to defer the application, but as the chair has mentioned, I think it is necessary that the applicant do their due diligence and have those conversations to determine, firstly, if they're going to make an application, and secondly, what that application will be with more specifics than what we have before us now.
Any other, Mr. Clay?
Yeah, I would just echo what Joanne was saying. Carl, I get the point. I mean, I think we're all struggling a little bit with a little bit of confusion as to the applicable law here, whether in fact the OMB decision is an outright refusal or the OMB decision is a conditional based on the amount of landscaping or soft landscaping in the front. I just feel I don't have the kind of information at my fingertips to really deal with this. I think a deferral might help us or a future panel to understand this application a little bit better. I totally agree with Joanne about the curb cut. Even if you can slice a car on an angle into that spot, I can't imagine that being done without crossing the adjacent property line at some point, which I think is inappropriate given that it could be two very unrelated neighbors at some future date. So I think, deferral will allow for some clarity for us or a future panel to make a better informed decision on this application. So I'd support a deferral.
Okay. Anyone else, or does somebody want to move a motion?
I'll move a motion to defer rescheduling when the applicant advises the committee they're ready.
Okay, so motion to defer, moved by Ms. Hayes, seconded by Mr. Clay.
Can I just put a little bit of advice, just not only to deal with the issues we've raised today, but also it might help the application subject to legal considerations that if you're going to put a pad in there, put it in permeable pavers, and that even though that doesn't count towards soft landscaping, it might mitigate anyone's concern about rainwater runoff.
Okay, thank you. So the motion's moved by Ms. Hayes, seconded by Mr. Clay. And if in the notes you could put that the committee asks that whatever hardscape for the pad that they're proposing be impermeable pavers, and that full consultation take place with planning, transportation, and anyone else to make sure they come back with an appropriate plan and proposal should we defer. So that motion, all in favor? Okay, that carries. Item number 19, 57 Roseveaar Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have an arborist report from Jordan Barker from the Davy Resource Group, 2 form letters in support from 50 and 63 Roseveaar Avenue. And I am only showing the agent as a speaker. So do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam and panel. My name is Saba Al-Methnu. I'm QBS Architects, 1670 Bayview Avenue.
Okay. Panel members, do you have any questions for the agent? Okay. Ms. Matno, I'm not showing any questions. We've read all the material.
Sorry, Madam
Yeah,
Chair,
you
I do.
Okay, I take that
Sorry.
back. Ms.
No, I was
Valentini?
just trying to look through my notes and refresh my memory. I did put a note here that so this is a front and rear two-story addition, and in terms of setbacks, the front two-story addition, is it going to be further ahead of adjacent neighbors? Is one of my concerns, I think, about this, is how the front two-story addition, because we don't normally, sometimes we see an enclosed front porch, but you're adding I think you're adding a second level above what would normally just be the enclosed front porch. Is that correct?
Correct. So what we are, yeah, correct. So what we are doing is basically the front, the existing enclosed front porch is really in a bad situation. So because like it was not done properly, so we are demolishing it and rebuilding on the exact footprint. And actually we have the support of the two adjacent neighbors. Madam Chair referred to 2 letters of support. In fact, we have 5 letters of support, including our 2 adjacent neighbors.
So the 2 adjacent neighbors have no, because it typically, planning hasn't, I don't think they've chimed in on this one, but often when they're allowing, when we see front porches that are enclosed, there's often a condition that suggests that they can't build above that first story and extend. So I'm just, concerned about sort of if there will be an impact on the neighbors. So you're saying both neighbors are fine with that because the house is going to be further ahead of the neighbors in the front. Is that correct?
Correct. But if you can see, like we have also streetscape pictures yeah. So we have the support of both adjacent neighbors, and there are like number 59, they have similar situation than us.
In terms of what, the front yard setback?
In terms of like front, yes, like the porch, like it's almost 2-story extension they've done on the front.
And you said 59?
Yes, 59. So it's on our sheets number 20 of 28.
Sorry, let me just refresh my memory. Oh, well, where is that?
So
Sorry,
if you can
the
go
plan?
also on
Are you looking at the
Google.
site plan, or what are you looking at? Sorry.
No, I'm looking at sheet number A5001. So we have adjacent neighbors, just like streetscape, straight from Google Earth.
I don't think do we have that?
So you see examples of front porches that have been enclosed and
But for 2 stories up, that's my concern. It's not necessarily the front porch, but you're putting an addition on the 2nd story above the front porch. So
that's correct.
When I look at the site plan, it looks like this house is going to be much further ahead of the 2 neighbors.
So no, because
like rather than just the one.
That's correct, but we have the support of all of our adjacent neighbors, including the neighbor across the street.
Okay,
and
thank
we
you.
have no comments from planning.
I think I have a concern about that, but I don't know. Are there any other houses on the street that are in that condition?
Yes, number 59.
But I mean for the 2 stories, not just the enclosed porch.
Number 59, it has similar situation. The 2nd floor is, if you look at
59 seems to be set back a bit. It's not flush.
A little bit. That's right, but it's like it's almost 3/4 in the 2nd floor.
Any other questions, panel members? Mr. Nipfel and then Ms. Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You indicated that you have the support of both neighbors.
Correct.
Which is 55 and 59.
Yes.
I don't see that. We've got a support letter from number 50, and we've got one for number 63. Are we missing something in our agenda?
Yes, it's actually, if you log into the portal, I just checked that, and we have from 50, 55, 59, 61, and 63.
When did you submit
If
that?
you can just click on the link, it's there actually on the portal. I just
Okay,
checked that.
when did you submit that?
Before the deadline, for sure.
Okay, well, it's not in our agenda, but the staff will have a look, so.
Actually, it is. Yeah.
No, I didn't realize you had our agendas, but, okay. So I think you're correct, it's online, but we didn't get it in our agendas.
Oh, I don't know about
Yeah,
that.
okay, that's all I'm trying to say, is that the panel member's just trying to confirm that we did have the letters, because it's not in the materials that we've reviewed. Okay, so we've got it there, so thank you.
So we do have it then in our
It
agenda,
looks-
right?
well,
55 and 59?
I'm looking, they're confirming on the, are you guys on the AIC, somebody? Because we don't.
Well,
have-
it looks like it's
not
on
in the agenda,
page-
yeah.
It is in the agenda now that
It
I look
is?
at it, right? Under correspondence in support 1, I think if you scroll,
Okay. I don't
well,
know.
I could be
'cause
wrong.
don't-
I didn't note it in my notes though,
It's not
so.
in my,
It's not in mine either. I've got
Through
63
you-
and
through
50,
you, Madam
but
Chair,
somebody's got 59 on the screen now, so it's obviously something that was added later.
Well, and 55 is at page 769 of the agenda, so it's just a matter of scrolling through now that I know. I'm surprised the neighbors are fine with it, but that's all.
It's fine. I see it here now. I was just looking at my sheets. It's not on the sheets. But anyway, it's fine. We have it. Okay, any other questions? No more questions, panel members? Hi, Saba, is there anything you want to add that's not in the materials that we have or the submissions that you feel we need to know before we make a decision?
No, just like we are asking for like minor variances. Basically, we are squaring off the house from the front and from the back. And most of our variances are due to the existing setbacks of the house. And we consulted with the neighbors and we have 5 letters of support. So I'm ready to answer any questions any panel member has.
Okay, thanks. I don't think we have any more questions, so let's take it into committee then. Any comments?
I'll start. I do want to hear from Lisa because she's got some concerns, but I looked at this and the fact that the adjacent and surrounding neighbors are comfortable with it. It does go out a little further on the second story, but visually not a lot. I don't think it's a very eclectic street. It's got a bit of a mishmash of different architectural designs and older and further away some newer stuff. I'm generally okay with this. I think overall the variances before us are, as the agent noted, a lot of them are existing conditions. The only concern I think is, how far forward does the front come and what impact on massing that has. And I thought the design itself wasn't too bad, so I don't know if it'll have a measurable negative impact on the streetscape. So I'm okay with it, but I know Lisa has some concerns.
Well, initially I do have concerns just because I think it's going to be kind of at a step with what is on either side, but I'm just scrolling through the variances. I actually don't think there's a front yard setback variance. Am I wrong? I don't think so. So perhaps it's not even an issue that that's why we didn't, right? Like often we see that, so.
It's picked up on the SSI mostly.
Yeah, so anyway.
Anyone
else? Well, kickstart, I'll just move a motion to approve, and that'll, I guess, get things moving. I don't think there are any conditions, so I'm happy to move a motion to approve this application.
Okay, are you seconding, Ms. Hayes? All right, so motion to approve the application, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Ms. Hayes. All in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. Your application's been approved. Okay, final item this morning, item number 20, 8 Oaklands Avenue. We have one variance before us, a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. And is the agent on the line?
Members of the committee, it's Will Hudson from Hudson Architecture. I'm the architect for the job.
Okay, good morning. Panel members, I believe this is a reconstruction of a front porch roof. There's one variance. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Hudson? No? Okay, we're ready to take this into committee for a decision. Sir, is there anything you want to add that's not in the materials we have?
No, I won't hold you up. I think it's super simple.
Thanks for contributing to our lunchtime. Everybody here appreciates it.
I'm trying. I'm hungry too.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Panel members, let's take it into committee for a decision. Mr. Niffel and then Ms. Hayes.
Madam Chairman, unless my colleagues have concerns, I think, as the applicant indicated, this is super simple. It's a small adjustment to a front porch. It doesn't have a negative impact on either the attached neighbor or the street. I believe it's completely consistent and it's very minor, and I would like to move approval without condition.
Okay, and Ms. Hayes seconds. So motion to approve, moved by Mr. Niffel, seconded by Ms. Hayes. All in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously, so thank you, and it's 12:46. We stand adjourned till 2 o'clock. So I'll see you guys later.
Have a good lunch, everybody.
You too. Bye.